Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. On behalf of Netcore and Research NXT team, I would like to welcome all of you to this ebook launch today. Thanks a lot for joining us. Before we start with the sessions and the awesome lineup of speakers that we have got today, I would like to take a couple of minutes to walk you through the journey of this report and the agenda for the day. So we commenced this project in March 2020 with an objective to understand how AI is transforming the way we do marketing and how leading brands across the country are adopting it. The journey was rather different from the usual projects we do. We all got hit with the pandemic. And I thought after recording a few interviews that we might not be able to get the lineup of speakers and interviewees that we were looking for to get this report done. But I must say thanks to all the leaders who participated and shared their experiences with us and helped us make this report happen. And we are able to curate this one-of-the-kind report with wisdom from the trends through the pandemic to the new normal. Let's have a quick look at the key trends that we observed while we created this report. Here are some of the participating brands that helped us to curate this report. And we'll see more of the speakers who also joined us and shared their perspective with us. Some of the key observations that we had: personalization with AI has become the most competitive advantage that all of us have. And all of us as brand ambassadors do need to think about this while we plan any campaigns. Data was always considered as the oil, the new oil, and now is the currency for marketing. And marketing has now become a tech-enabled engine. Without AI, success is not possible now for marketing campaigns. Having said that, technology alone cannot be the determining factor of your marketing success. Empathy with the consumer is very important. That's one of the key trends that we learned while we were speaking to most of the amazing speakers who joined us in this initiative. Last but not the least for today, customer engagement is one of the significant driver of growth. And we are going to cover all these points in the sessions that we will have during the day today. Let me walk you through the agenda for the day. So first we will have a keynote session with David Rapp, who's going to talk about artificial intelligence and digital maturity of your brand. Followed by that, we'll have our first panel, which is going to talk about customer engagement as a driver of growth. This panel will be led by Rohit, and our panelists include Meera Iyer, Rahul Mishra, Ritesh Bhatnagar, and Avnish Anand. We have an awesome fireside chat with Ravi and Lloyd, and this is going to be moderated by Santosh Velecha. The topic is going to be building the right foundation for your marketing with data and analytics. And the last session is going to be about personalization as a competitive advantage. I'm going to be moderating this session, and we have an awesome lineup of speakers on this one as well. We've got Shweta Iyer, Sanjay Gupta, Akshay Matkar, and Ayush Agarwal joining us in this particular session. So without further ado, we'll start with our next session. That's on the keynote from David Rapp. David is widely recognized as the expert in marketing technology and analytics. He has been consulting independently since 1987, specializing in marketing, technology, trend strategy, product requirements, and vendor selection. I've personally been inspired by David's research, and that led to my initiatives that I've been working on. And David has been really an inspiration to all of us when it comes to marketing technology and related research. So David, considering the time zone difference, couldn't join us directly, but he has shared a recorded video to us. So let's listen to his video now.
Hi, I'm David Rabb, founder and CEO of the Customer Data Platform Institute. I'm delighted to have been able to contribute to the book on role of technology, personalization, and AI in marketing, and even more delighted to be able to discuss it here with you today, although I'm sad I can't do it in person. So let's talk about the fundamental fact that marketing today is technology powered. You simply cannot market effectively without using technology. This means learning about technology is no longer an option for marketers. Marketers must master technology if they are to succeed and if their companies are to succeed. Technology, in turn, is not just systems. Technology is about being data-driven in your decisions, in your analytics, and this is where artificial intelligence really comes into play, because artificial intelligence, by its very nature, is also data-driven. As the term implies, the basis of being data-driven is data. This is where the customer data platform comes in. Data drives AI because AI depends on the quality of the inputs to make good decisions about the outputs that it's going to recommend. Okay? Data quality, in turn, depends on the actual volume of the data, the actual accuracy and quality of that data, the currency of that data, and whether that data is accessible to all the systems that are going to need it. So it's not just about simply having data, it's about having good data and making it acceptable. Similarly, personalization, which is the ultimate end goal of the AI that we use in marketing, or one of the end goals, extends well beyond marketing itself. It's not just about making offers. It's about controlling the full customer experience, starting with marketing, but including sales and operations, customer success. Every way that we interact with customers depends on personalization to give a full quality experience, which is what customers expect. So what is the role of the customer data platform in particular? We understand that it gathers data, but what does it really do? What do you gain from having a CDP? Well, the first thing you gain is you have the data that you can gather to train your AI models, okay? Because the quality of those models depends on the quality of the data. The second core thing that the customer data platform does is that it makes that data accessible during interactions about individual customers. So you can take those AI models and apply them to this person in this particular situation. So you can actually get some value from the models, because models, unless they're applied, are just a science project. But there's more to it than that. Gathering data in a customer data platform and working on the quality of data builds the digital maturity of your company. It builds the data-driven decisioning skills. It builds the data orientation, the analytical orientation of your company. It makes the company able to take advantage of the capabilities that AI provides. Finally, and more prosaically, but equally important, AI can free up your staff to do work that's not just simply data preparation, which is where a great deal of effort is spent today. AI can handle those data preparation tasks and let your staff do more creative things that are more important to actually building a quality customer experience over time. How do I know if my organization is ready for AI, you may ask? Well, it's a good question, but happily the answer is actually very simple. If you're in business, you're ready for AI. AI is built into so many tools today that every company can take advantage of it, even if they have no actual data scientists or artificial intelligence experts on staff to build custom systems. But as they get more advanced, companies can move beyond the basic AI capabilities that might be built into a chatbot or a recommendation engine. They can begin to tailor experiences precisely to each individual. And again, AI makes this possible and makes it easier because AI can see the subtle connections that are very hard for humans to perceive. And in particular, it can find those connections across example after example after example, rather than having to work very hard just to come up with a handful, which is what happens when you try to have humans do that kind of work at the same level of quality. In addition, AI can be used to measure the impact of its activities and of all your marketing activities, and therefore to refine your results over time to see what's working, to improve what's working, and then to improve your overall results as AI learns better and better and better how to build those more and more sophisticated customers' experience. So finally, if there's one question that I could ask marketers around the world, I would ask a question that prompts them to identify the areas where AI can offer them greater value. And one way to do that is to ask yourself, what are the processes that if I had unlimited human resources, I would most like to do? So maybe I would like to have a salesperson follow every customer as they walk through the store, as they are on the website, making suggestions and looking up their history and having this infinite memory of everything that customer's ever done and every product I've ever sold. I can't hire enough people to do that. I certainly can't pay enough people to do that. But I can hire an AI to do that. So first of all, I want to see what is it that I could do. Now, those are going to be processes that impact a lot of customers. They're common to a lot of customers. So I'll have the scope. And secondly, those will be processes that have a significant impact on the long-term customer relationship. Not just making the next sale, although we like to make the next sale, but really having a long-term impact so that customer becomes a loyal customer, comes back, does business with us over time. So the question I ask you is, what are the processes that you would like to automate that will have an impact on many customers and have a long-term impact on the relationship? Those are the processes that you want your AI to be working against. Thank you.
Up next, we have our first panel discussion on customer engagement as a driver of growth.
Hello, everyone. We proceed into the first panel for today. And before I introduce my panel members with the required introduction, I'll just set the tone for the session. We'll be talking around the macro theme of customer engagement as the driver of growth. My whatever career that I've had has been with platforms that enable customer engagement, and as a result of that, enabling customer retention. Now, we have all been hearing for long that customer retention is actually what saves you the most money, is the ultimate goal for all the consumer-facing brands. And I think we have arrived at a stage where customer retention is sort of an end goal driven by customer engagement. And especially thinking about the theme of all the interviews and the entire project that we did together, I think one of the most important enablers of customer engagement has become the whole utilization of AI in that stack. So I think with that tone and with that theme in place, we should be good to start with the session. So I'll just share the theme and for the larger audience. So as I said earlier, customer engagement as a driver of growth will be the agenda of this session. And we'll try to cover everything under 40 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes, and we'll have some time left for the audience questions as well. And on the panel, we have Avnish from Carrot Lane, and I'll have a bigger introduction and a better and a more detailed one later. We have Avnish, Meera, Rahul, and Ritesh joining us. And what we have today as the key trends cumulated from their interviews as well as from other thought leaders' interviews are while marketing automation is ubiquitous, experimentation with AI and big data is rising fast, and it's the next mountain to climb. So marketing automation in the industry has been a sort of table stakes now, and all the customer engagement strategies are enabled through marketing automation platforms, especially for the consumer-facing brands, because the scale has been at a level where marketing automation has become a hygiene factor. Now, where AI comes into picture is mostly around making sense of the data that we collect as brands and utilizing all of that data and creating a personalized and a more coherent experience for the end consumer. And this is not just being enabled by the brands and the humans behind it, because at the scale that the brands today are operating, it is virtually practically impossible to implement all of that humanly. So that's where the AI comes into picture, where it creates a dynamic as well as a coherent personalized experience for entire customer sets and entire consumer base for various brands. So, and the final insight that and key trends that came out was the structure that goes behind creating all of the all the entire stack, as well as the system and the process of AI implementation in programmatic media buying, as well as creating that stack in enabling the final experience for the entire customer base. And why I say this is because twofold. It is twofold. One is obviously uh, when do you stop your external media, as in the acquisition part of the media, uh, with customer acquisition, or do you keep it on, and what part of that budget is divided into acquisition, and what part of that budget is divided into engagement, and then finally retention, and what part of your entire marketing stack is divided between acquisition and retention. So that is something that is a point of discussion, and also some insights around that in the ebook as well. So we have with us Meera. Meera is a seasoned marketer with over 15 years of experience at companies that were early adopters of digital. Meera was engaged with Unilever for marketing and sales for 9 years, with Big Basket as the head of marketing for almost 3 years, and overseeing ATL, digital, BTL, marketing, and PR. This led to her current role as the CMO of MedLife, and Meera is joining us from Big Basket and MedLife, and she has been very generous in engaging with us at different touch points as well. So thank you, Meera, for joining us. We have with us Ritesh. Ritesh Bhatnagar is a brand and marketing strategist with more than 2 decades of experience with multi-million dollar brands and startups. Currently, the chief marketing officer of Utopia Mobile, or Woo dating app, one of the large portfolio that Utopia Mobile has of apps and businesses. WooCommerce is maybe the most recognizable, and he is responsible for marketing, brand management, and growth strategies internationally. And he is an alumni of the famous business school in Seattle. Avnish joins us and has from Carrot Lane, and Avnish has spent most of his professional life in the internet industry and has been part of 2 startups from a very early stage. As co-founder and head of e-commerce businesses at Carrot Lane, his responsibilities include digital marketing, product management, international business, growth, customer experience, and sales. Previously, he started Code Gladiators, which is the world's largest coding competition. And finally, we have Rahul. Rahul Mishra is an experienced and seasoned marketing professional with a demonstrated history of helping brands excel in media and entertainment sector. His areas of expertise are marketing management, OTT marketing, digital strategy, content creation and market research, product and business launches, brand refresh, and partnerships. He recognizes the true call of customer satisfaction and impactful delivery, gaining positive traction all along the way of success. Thank you, each one of you, in joining us, and first of all, giving us the time and the interview and the insights that made this book possible, and again helping us in having this incredible event that we are and being a part of the panel and sharing your insights further with the audience. And thank you. Just a lot of gratitude towards all of you for joining us today. So with that, with the intro out of our agenda, we'll start with the first question. So I'll just put across the first question, and obviously all of you can weigh on it. But before that, I'll just ask all the panel members to share their thoughts around the customer engagement as a driver of growth, the macro agenda that we have for the session. If we can start with Meera about what's your view with the theme.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Happy to be part of this panel, and also happy to see a book finally take shape to compile all the learnings that Santosh has put together across various stalwarts in the industry, as well as across different categories of products that customers buy on the internet. As a marketer now, and for the last 5 years, having been part of consumer internet businesses and large consumer internet businesses like Big Basket and Midlife, where the monthly transacting user base itself goes into millions, and therefore the visitors is even higher. So you have in excess of 1 million visitors every day. What happens is that when I look at and when I start dissecting growth, or even when you do AOPs for the entire year, it's very clear that there is going to be a significant chunk of growth that will come from your repeat audiences, not just the new audiences. And of course, new customer acquisition is always an exciting space because that is what builds towards the other base. But as a marketer for the last 5 years, what I've realized is that repeat business possibly contributes to half of your growth and costs about a tenth of what it would otherwise cost to acquire a new business. So therefore, equally important to put both time as well as energies into determining the entire customer engagement strategy. And customer engagement, I don't just restrict it to retention. It is also equally pertinent to customer acquisition in app install businesses, wherein your app drives growth. Because let's face it, at the end of day 0 after app install, you possibly have only a percentage of customers who've actually converted. And that percentage for me, at least in these last 2 businesses that I've seen, has ranged from anywhere between, on a great day at about 25% to a very lame day where it has shrunk to half of it. So what do you do with the remaining audiences whom you've managed to get to install your app and whom you've managed to basically capture some bit of consideration? How do you convert that into a transaction? Is equally customer engagement and a piece that will drive a lot of growth for you if thought through carefully, if planned through carefully, and if you have some good managed consumer journeys that you've set up in various marketing automation apps that most e-commerce companies use. So yeah, for me, customer engagement as a driver of growth is critical from not just retention, but also from acquisition perspective, wherein getting people who have at least shown an intent by either visiting your site or installing your app to finally transact using various tools and various remarketing strategies takes a very important precedence, and at the same time is a delight from an ROI perspective because it doesn't cost as much. And I'm hoping to actually talk about a few more points about what Rohit mentioned in terms of what percentage of, let's say, ATL budget that you allocate actually goes into retention versus just new customer acquisition and more. Looking forward to hearing more from my panelists as well. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Meera, for adding to that. Can we have Ritesh weighing in on the topic as well?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. First of all, my apologies. Work from home has its own bottlenecks. Our neighbors have decided to get some work renovated in their house. So if you hear something, please let me know. Okay, so I think it's a very interesting topic. We cater to around 1 billion base globally with consumers, and we have different businesses from dating to gaming to providing digital lifestyle solutions to telecom operators across the globe. So we've got a large and differentiated base to cater to. Well, I think everybody will agree that marketing has taken a huge change from what it used to be 5 years or 10 years down the line. It's more now performance-based and more ROI-led for any marketer. And that's why the retention game has to play a huge role, because your cost of acquisition and your entire ROI depends on that. So how much you're investing and how much revenue you're getting out of that. For example, in our dating app, Woo, we've got around 10 million subscribers today, and we're trying to create the largest platform for young Indians to connect them socially and romantically. But in the end, it's a business. We need to acquire and make people convert to buy our subscription pack. Now, I can keep on doing that on Google and Facebook, but as we all know, that they have become too smart for their own shoes over the time and actually have started charging you more as you acquire. So the only things that didn't work for you is more organic growth or referral schemes, which then have more retention power, because in a platform like a dating app, people are coming to towards more continuity, towards security, towards trust in a dating app. So they don't, and the lifespan is very lesser. The retention is lesser. You find a match, you move on. And then you've got different platforms where you can connect and chat. So you have to retain them in the dating app for them to start paying you. So for that, you have to generate more kind of engagement on the dating app so that they stay with you. and they convert more than you spend. So thus it becomes a very interesting game for a marketer today to keep getting his costs down and start making more money out of the consumers who are coming into your platform. Thank you.
That's a very interesting point to make about getting a match and moving on. I think that applies to so many scenarios apart from that dating app, but that particular insight is how to get money out of consumers. I think I never have thought about that. So Avnish, would you be kind enough to weigh in on the topic as well?
Yeah, hi Rohit, thank you, and happy to be here with all of you. See, if I talk about our category, which is jewelry, if you think about it, then every customer has a family jeweler, right? Pretty much in this country. And everybody is already used to a very high level of, I would say, service and experience. That family jeweler might not have, millions of customers, but for his small set of customers, the experience is great, right? And very high level of engagement. And for that, it's a very experiential category, right? So in a way, you are competing against that, and you need to deliver the same kind of engagement and experience at a much higher scale, right? That's the first challenge in jewelry. The second challenge is that, unlike a lot of the other categories over here, you don't buy jewelry all the time, right? It's not that you can build a business. While it's important to have high retention and for people to come back and buy, sometimes they might not have an occasion to buy jewelry, right? A lot of our customers, for example, are men, right? Somebody buys an engagement ring, or, for some other occasion, you buy a gift. And for the next 2 years, they might not have any other reason to buy jewelry. So it's not that you're losing them or they have become dormant. They just don't have a need, right? So those are two very unique characteristics of jewelry. So our challenge is to kind of create that same kind of experience and the same kind of engagement at scale. And so also to work out in a way that whenever the customer really wants to buy jewelry, we are still in his mind, and we are able to then, do very precise targeting and marketing to be there when he wants to buy again. So the way you look at your repeat metrics is very different in that sense, right? You can't say that, okay, retention is low. So you have to segment and have different repeat goals for those different segments. So our whole challenge is to work around that and obviously get the ROI and everything like everybody else mentioned before us. So, and we also have a large sales channel, right? Unlike a lot of the others over here, we have a lot of assisted business as well, where it's not pure technology, but the model which involves a human who's assisted with technology also involves a lot of intelligence to be put into that. And so that creates a lot of very fascinating user journeys across channels, right? We have stores, we have try at home, we have a live channel, we have WhatsApp, and sometimes people just do a click and buy as well. So in with all of these variables, right, you have a lot of very distinct journeys, and to do this experience part across these journeys is where the entire challenge comes into play. So that's what we do, and we'll talk more about it in the subsequent questions, Rohit.
Yeah, your insights make me remember. So I was learning about the entire diamond industry, how it came into play, and why De Beers is called De Beers, and so on and so forth. But I understand, and I can match that pattern, how the entire past century of diamond creation is around creating more moments of people buying jewelry, and how challenging it can become. So that's pretty interesting to know in itself. So coming from daily purchases to maybe once in 5 years, Rahul, I think you have a very different challenge at your hand with playing in the OTT space, and the level of engagement and personalization that people expect from an OTT player is at a very different level. So what's your view about customer engagement?
Yeah. So I just, I think, first of all, Rohit, thank you for having me here, and thank you, Santosh, and rest of the panel members. I think some very good insights. It's good learning for me as well, because to be honest, most of us in the media and entertainment ecosystem who've been part of the content creation companies, like broadcast channels, etc. For us to move from the term audience to customers is taking a bit of time as well. We were never talking to people one-on-one. We were all used to in a way broadcasting and giving our content to a large set of population, not interacting with them as much, and that has changed so quickly for us. So we may not be while some companies in the OTT space are probably driving what the gold label or the diamond label for customer engagements is, but some companies are still gearing up to actually talk to customers. So at least from a Shimaru entertainment point of view, we're a legacy brand. We've been there for about 58 years. We sold VHS cassettes, then we sold DVDs, and then we got ourselves into digital, into broadcast, other ways as well. So it's customers are coming to us for the first time in such a big way. So what do we do? So what some interesting facts we actually are seeing that customers engagement needs are just like the customers. They all are unique. For us to create cohorts, when we have to create cohorts of customers, it's so many cohorts because of the way the content ecosystem is built, by the kind of content exposure we can give, the genres we can go into. Within genres, we can have sub-genres. So we have multiple layers of cohorts we need to create to talk to a customer and engage with a customer. So from a technology point of view, I think what we are still doing is building those models, different set of technologies which can actually talk to each other and create that uniform customer engagement platform for us. So I think yeah, I'll talk a bit more about how we're building that. But the larger aspect is that yes, it's extremely crucial for an OTT company to build customer engagement, because that's what ensures your renewal. Our cost of acquisitions overall are still way higher. As an industry, we are probably spending the highest in terms of acquiring customers for the value we're getting. So retention plays a huge role for us, and that's where the focus is going to be.
Yep, I think the whole migration from a legacy brand and VHS thing, I think it reminds me of an anecdote when my dad saw the Shimaru Me app on the Fire Stick, and he was pleasantly surprised because he had so much of a fondness of Shimaru as a brand that he could recognize these guys are also coming online, because that demarcation has been so strong with people like Netflix, and like it's a pre-Netflix, post-Netflix era. So that brand, what do you say, that time of the emotion of the brand from Shimaru being offline to Shimaru Me being an app and being on the forefront of Amazon Fire Stick, I think that realization from my dad was very interesting to see, to witness as well.
Thanks, Rohit. Thanks.
So I think the stage is perfectly set for our first question to ponder upon, and I'd like to ask Meera about this particular thing. I think all customer engagement strategies are as strong as the context and personalization they are based upon. And me personally being a repeat customer of both Big Basket and MedLife, can understand the experience that or the thought process that would go behind stitching those customer experience day in and day out. So given that contextual experience is a function of data, what kind of data should brands collect and also utilize, to not get into that data inundation process and keeping that data actionable for that personalized experience?
Sure. I think what kind of data you collect, first of all, you're absolutely bang on when you say that any kind of personalization, while we call it personalization, the norm is basically it is personalized to a customer segment. Why? Because when you have when you have 250,000 customers coming onto your platform in a day, or even 500,000 customers coming onto your platform in a day, you cannot have 500,000 unique experiences. So what you're really talking about as a marketer is having possibly 5 or 6, maybe at times, if it is a little extreme, maybe 10 buckets of experiences which you give to 10 clearly defined segments that you have. Now, what segments you have is really going to depend on two things, right? One is your business characteristics, inherent business characteristic. So, for example, when I look at a grocery, the grocery, while it is a vertical, it is not a horizontal when it comes to looking at this particular business as grocery. Within grocery, you have very clear segments of different categories. every household requires home cleaning also. It requires fruits and vegetables also. It requires staples also. It requires personal care also. But if you look at it, not every household really goes in for, let's say, gourmet as a category, which is a slightly more premium. Not every household will find baby care, baby and mom care relevant, because that is very clearly pertinent to a particular life stage, right? And let's say when you come to MedLife is very clearly split into 4 business verticals. Pharma retail being one, which is delivery of prescription medicines. OTC, which is the non-prescription bit of wellness products, is the second. Lab diagnostics is the third. And then you have doctor e-consultation, which is the fourth one. All 4 very different, and customer doesn't come for all 4 at the same time. And yet the opportunity to cross-sell and upsell is very rich when you have 4 such parallel segments. So I think first and foremost, what would be important is to be able to define saying, my goal is, one, to increase customer LTV, right? For a repeat customer who is coming back onto my platform. My goal is to convert a new customer, and therefore I need to know what are those conversion hooks that happen. And third, my goal is to be able to understand as much as possible about this customer's peculiar characteristics, whether it is about the geography they are from, whether it is about a particular life stage that you can identify. So for example, anyone who has browsed a baby product has a baby. Otherwise, there is absolutely no way that you're going anywhere near that category, right? Similarly, if someone is basically, if someone, let's say, is looking at herbal products on, let's say, a MedLife as a platform, then you know that this person has a predisposition towards natural therapies in addition to whatever is prescribed in allopathic ways of life, and therefore you have a chance to basically upsell that. So what are those kind of hooks that you can use to understand the customer? What are those different categories that customers are visiting, which you can use to slice and dice for 2 primary reasons? One, to understand conversion, saying where is conversion happening and where is it not happening. And secondly, from the point of view of how does this customer really behave on the platform? What are those? And this is more also, I'm not just wearing a marketing hat over here, I'm also wearing a product hat. It's very critical from a product perspective as also to understand the customer journey, to be able to do those incremental product improvements, so that ultimately the customer journey gets smoothened out to an extent that leads to maximum conversions for you and your business. So I think key data points for me would be, one, what are the different pages that people are visiting, and how are and what are the kind of actions that are happening on those pages? What kind of customer background information do I already have, which is able to segment them already, which could be basis your IP and geo segmentation of those customers, which could be basis any prior record that you have of the customer themselves. And this is where backend and backend data also becomes critical, because no matter how much of front-end data you collect, if in the backend all the data that you have and all the pointers that you have are not cleanly segmented and properly bucketed, you will basically go all over the place in trying to figure out those insights that can lead to much better growth. So data would also include, let's say in a business like MedLife, a prescription is mandatory, and most prescription comes with gender, it comes with age, and it comes with some understanding of the disease or the condition that a person is suffering. So how do you capture all of that and ensure that you store it in meaningful tables, so that next time when you want to create customer segments, next time when you want to do a particular campaign for a set of products, you are able to easily track them, find them, and you're able to target them. So any and every bit of data that you are able to use with respect to objectives, which I outlined earlier, is what you should be looking at capturing. It's very easy to say that you capture each and everything, but I think if you start with the objective in mind first and say that this is my objective, and I think these are the 5 things that will help me achieve these objectives, then it becomes far more crisper, clearer, and you're able to do a much more effective and efficient job of data capture, as well as post data capture all the campaigns that you want to set up.
No, so I think that aligns with a lot of the product philosophy that we have in-house as well, and that's very, very understandable. And me, both from being at Netcore and seeing what is happening best out in the world, and being so I'll tell you one particular incident when I shifted from being a regular big basket customer to a BB star customer, as they call it, or maybe you have named it, I don't know.
Yes,
So I could see the product recommendation changing, and all the product recommendations started to move towards the premium product. So I can totally relate to that particular line of data collection and recommendation. I know that
I think where most people get a little, or let me just say that even I have made this mistake of first saying that let's capture everything and then decide what to do with it. My sense is that if you start with objectives, if you start with saying that these are the 3-4 objectives that we have for using the data, and this is what is possible within the whole ambit of technology, you are much sharper in making choices of what you want, and you in fact also modify product. I think one of the most beautiful things is that when you have a product platform, there are these small subtle things that you can keep doing in terms of just having one pop-up with one simple question, right, which leads to a lot of rich data for you to do further customization and further segmentation. So use that also equally as much as you would use it. And the second thing that I have also learned over the last 5 years is, as much as you are building systems for capturing data, invest an equal amount of time and focus in creating those correct back-end categorization tables, so that when you want to use the data, it is already meaningfully segmented for you to be able to do a mix and match of saying, I want to pick customers from Delhi who suffer from diabetes and have also shown an inclination for herbal products. If you do not have these back-end tags already created, you will go all over the place trying to just get to this customer segment.
Yeah. I see all of those customer segments being created in our product as well, and I can see it. It is like a tool is basically as powerful as the data that you have. So I can totally relate to on both the side. I know that that particular data collection strategy is obviously very helpful with brands with regular purchases. But since I have read what Avnish has shared in his interview, I specifically want him to weigh in on this question for maybe 30-45 seconds about how data collection at on his side, coming from a very different kind of a category, how that works out, because I think that's a very interesting insight to miss.
Yeah, see, I'll just give 2 examples, Rohit. I'll give one example of data which we figured we should not capture, and one data which we are trying to capture and build on it, right? So, initially we had this view that there are online customers and there are offline or retail customers, because we thought, we have this view that people are internet savvy and they are more likely to buy online, and there are some people who want to go to the store. And we quickly realized that there was no such pattern, right? It all depended on the context of the purchase, what was the reason they were buying it for, and what type of product they wanted to buy. So till the time you had the buying occasion clear, you could not say that he was an online buyer or an offline buyer. So that kind of understanding was not helping us at all. There are customers who are online buyers who buy it all the time, but if you want a product today, there is no way it can be delivered to you today, right? So you have to go to a store. So understanding that was more important, to give him options where the product could be made available to him today by going to a store which was in their neighborhood. Similarly, we did a lot of work with personalizing product recommendations, and we failed. And it's a big problem in the jewelry industry because of various reasons, right? Because of the nature of the product, and there's no standard dictionary, right? There's no standard, the categorization of the products in a lot of categories is fairly standard, right? In books, the genres are well defined, but in jewelry, beyond the product type, it's very vague still, and it's very hard to do a recommendation. And we have tried enough things and we have seen a lot of other products, it doesn't work. So then there's no point building, collecting data and trying to build on that. However, where it helps, so I mentioned earlier, right, that we need to figure out when people would want to buy jewelry, right? And one of the most important things which you've seen is that, there are like it's a very occasion-based purchase still, right? Whether it's a Diwali, Dhanteras, or Akshaya Tritiya, or there are smaller festivals in various parts of the country, or these are for important occasions for the woman in your life, which could be your mom, your wife, your sister, your daughter, your girlfriend, all of those people, right? And the funny thing is that, think about it, Rohit, suppose you bought jewelry, right? And you bought it for your mom, for example, right? She's the one who's going to be wearing it. She's the one who's going to be wowed by the beautiful jewelry. But I am doing all your advertising to you because I have your data that you place the order. It's not helping, right? You are not the one who's going to be wowed with that jewelry. I need to get to your mom, right? So one is that building that connect with your mom, and therefore figuring out when she's browsing and when she would be interested in buying something is more important for me, right? So we have now, this is a journey, obviously, that to try and create these connections, that I have your mom's profile and I have your profile, and I need to connect them. The other way it helps is that men often have this challenge that they don't know what to get, right? Because jewelry, all of us would have heard it, right? You don't get anything rubbish, and you spend a lot of money on it also. I would rather buy it myself. So the only way to solve that problem also is to know what is she really interested in, right? Which will come when you get her browsing information. So, and if you think about it, if you can build this kind of a network, right, where you have all the relationships and their occasions, then it becomes very easy. Then I don't have to do any marketing, right? I just know when you would need it for which relationship, and then the whole communication can be highly personalized. The recommendation can then be personalized with the names and everything, and I know what to recommend. And if you know that, okay, she's really browsing it and she's put it in her cart and she might really want it, then you'll be more than happy to do it, right? Because you will wow her by giving it to her, and it will still be an element of surprise for her. So then, right, this is the kind of data which you would want to collect and build these type of journeys, because they are very relevant for our business. And if you can do it really well, it creates a great moat around your business also, right? Because it's very hard to do, and you'll have to have a 2-year commitment to build enough data, capture enough data, incentivize customers to share this with you, and to continuously keep creating relevant experiences so that they feel that, yeah, it's worth giving this data to Carrot Lane. So just an example where capturing data is going to be useful, and you can create an excellent experience in terms of personalization and engagement.
Yeah, I think the one line that you said about creating a moat for your business through data is, I think, one of the most important moats that a business today can build. And I think all of us realize that. It's just that taking both Mira's point and your together, having all of that data and in a form that can be used in ways to create that meaningful experience, both in your version and in Mira's version, is one of the most important modes that brands have today, and they have already realized it at a certain level. I would ideally move on into the structure of the discussion into the second question, but I have a very interesting question from the audience that I would like to include right here, because I think it is poised very well. And the question is directly to Ritesh, and the question is, in this pandemic situation, when you cannot have a customer touch point, and I think it ties to the dating app business that you have, is in this pandemic situation when you cannot have a customer touch point, how do you acquire new customers and retain the existing one? Because I think that is a challenge that all of us have pondered upon, but I think you are the best person to answer that.
So if I understand it correctly, dating as a category has grown leaps and bounds since we launched it around 6 years ago. And at that time, things were still a taboo. Indians still have this whole thing about dating as a word. It's more used in colleges. It's not a very matured thing. Coming to what's happening now. So luckily for us, when the pandemic hit, the two categories which not just in India, but world over grew was dating and gaming. The reason was that people were at home on a smartphone, had nothing else to do. So they were looking for these social connections and trying to meet new people. But it stagnated after an initial spike, because people started realizing that, yes, they can meet, but they actually can't go out and actually meet the person for a date, which used to happen more often than not. So it becomes difficult then, because then you need to make sure that you're doing new things on the app to create this engagement, acquiring the people to give them. So, for example, the entire dating scenario has changed through my talks to people, through my researches, which I've been doing, and the behavior on the dating app. People are now finding common grounds as a combined Tabata class to meet new person, right? Cooking became a rage on YouTube, right? So people are finding cooking classes together, and that's how their dates are happening now, virtually, which is the platform anyway. But instead of them moving immediately to a WhatsApp, exchanging numbers and going for a coffee date, they're finding ways to have a same cookery class through YouTube and enrolling for it. So you're having couples who are actually matching on the dating app and actually enrolling into a Tabata class or a salsa class online or a guitar class, and they're actually meeting together virtually like that. And that's actually very exciting for us and actually very challenging as well. Now, coming back to how you retain them is what you can make on the app so that they have more things to do. And so, for example, one of the big things which came into our dating app is, because I said a dating app, end of the day, you have to build the trust and the safety for a community to stay strong on it. So through the researches that we keep doing and connecting to the point earlier about the data, one thing which came very strongly is that the woman in India felt unsafe on a virtual app, not knowing who's on the other side, because he can create a profile, but you don't know who's behind the scenes, right? So we gave a tool on the dating app, which is a woman calling tool, where she can make a call to a man, but a man cannot call her back. He can only receive the call. So it empowers her. Also, it doesn't let her share her number like a WhatsApp. Here she's calling through the app itself. So only the data charges she's paying for, but she's not sharing her number. And we also don't show the name of a female on our app. We only show the initials. So when she's calling as SN, and she's not sharing her number, because in this Google world, you can find a person in 2 minutes, provided you know the name and maybe the company or maybe where she's residing. So it keeps her safe, it keeps her empowered, and it keeps her then to talk to this guy and actually figure out if he's the genuine guy behind the portfolio. And that increased our engagement during this COVID times to 60%, because we found people actually engaging more on the who calling and talking to people and trying to figure out who the person is on the other side, and having these, as I said, enrolling into different platforms to engage and be couples. So interesting, but that's one thing that we did.
Amazing, amazing answer, and actually amazing question. Thank you. We would have lost on that insight if the audience wouldn't have asked it. I think I'll take another audience question, because this is another interesting one. Although it is open to the panel, but I would ask Rahul to weigh in first, because I think it matches the category a lot. So the question is from Rishabh Chakravarti. The question is, how can one focus on incremental data collection once you have engaged audience on an app or a platform? How do you then prioritize predictive modeling or recommend product services better by marrying their app interaction with a new data point?
Yeah, so in our category, because it's a very highly engaged category, when somebody subscribes to an OTT platform voluntarily, there's a reason why the person is done, and we've seen, especially in the COVID, kind of engagement people have with their content favorite OTT players. So at every point, yes, we are understanding the consumer behavior in terms of obviously, starting off with what Veera mentioned, where did they come from, the basics. Which geo IPs, what's their language preference, etc., etc. And then we sort of start mapping it with their content consumption patterns. Here I actually would like maybe AI to come and play some magical role and understand their moods and emotions, but we've not reached that level. But what we do at all times is to keep understanding the audience behavior more and more with their consumption patterns, which could be divided into day parts, which could be divided into holiday, weekends, weekday, prime time, non-prime time, and then sort of showcase the data sets to these audiences. Then we filter it again with. Sometimes audiences have a liking towards a particular genre, but then when we deep dive, we understand that there's a liking towards a particular actor, and then we sort of recommend that sort of content back to the set of audience. So it's not always fully done There's a lot of experimentation we guys do at our end, because understanding the audience content consumption pattern is fully not cracked. We actually come and intervene and sort of do prompt a lot of these content suggestions to make the entire journey smooth. So I hope I've been able to answer some of the questions which were asked by the.
I hope so, but
Yeah.
there's always a time for follow-up.
Sure.
So I think I will include another audience question in the interest of time, and this is an open one. I'll just request all of you whoever thinks it's the should take a lead on that. So the question is, in the pursuit of creating an exceptional customer experience, how should brands ensure that they are not overwhelming the consumers with an excess of information and degrading the experience, further increasing cart abandonment and churn issues? I think a part of it Meera touched in answering the kind of data that you should collect. But I think the question lingers on, there's a fine line between wowing or delighting a consumer and creeping him out. So how do you ensure that that particular fine line is treaded really well? So Ritesh, Avnish, Meera, Rahul, anybody wants to take a stab at it?
Yeah, sorry, Meera can start actually if you want.
Sure. So if you look at a customer journey, you want as less friction points as possible, right? And you want them to basically smoothly, and I'm talking about a typical e-commerce company where at the end of it you have a transaction, right? You want the customer to be able to reach the product that they are looking for quickly, and you want them to be able to also check out quickly. And this is where I think there is enough and more product research, and I leave it to more the product teams to figure out how to remove excessive time-consuming activities on the app or on the site. But from an AI perspective, what really helped, let's say, and I'll go to Big Basket. An average cart at Big Basket at that point in time, and now it's increased, had 22 items. Right? This is very different to any other kind of an e-commerce cart, where at max you'll be looking at 1-2 kind of items. But over here you have 22 items. So a customer is looking to buy 22 items on an average, has to go either search or browse and add to basket 22 times, right? How do you make it better? And this is where I think AI played an important role. And since you're a Big Basket, Rohit, and I hope the others are too on the panel, you have something called the Smart Basket, right? Now, the Smart Basket is just AI-powered accumulation of products that you have routinely purchased, but intelligently ordered and sorted in a way that it recognizes your buying frequency pattern, right? So if you have purchased detergent last week, it will not throw it up at the top. It will actually be at the bottom saying things that you might need later. But let's say you bought shampoo a month back, it will actually bubble it to the top and say that things that you might require today, because we realize that you typically purchase it once a month and it's been a month since you purchased it. So let me bubble it up. This is something that you're most likely going to require, and we don't want you to miss out on that. And again, using AI to power recommendations, because once you do a clustering and you really create customer segments, you realize that, hey, out of this cluster of people who seem to be baby buyers or baby product buyers, 90% of these people seem to be buying into this subcategory, whereas this customer or these 10 customers haven't. So let's recommend a product to them, which seems to be something that most of these baby buyers are actually buying. So therefore, AI-powered recommendations as well as AI-powered Smart Basket that allows you to go through a transaction and go through the entire customer journey to complete that entire purchase as quick as possible, given the fact that it is quite tiring. It's very different when you're walking down a modern trade outlet and going in the aisles and seeing a lot of things around. There is enough and more visual stimulus as compared to you staring at your screen app or on your website and trying to add 22 different products by going either searching one by one or by trying to browse and navigate and find the particular product that you're trying to add to your basket. So these are things that that require a little bit of creativity, and I think even before you start applying creativity, trying to understand what are those key pain points or problem areas that you are going to try to solve for using creativity. So long as you've defined those problem areas and problem points very clearly, I think the following part of creatively coming up with solutioning becomes fairly easy and also is normally bang on in terms of the output.
Thanks, Meera, for adding on to where we left. And I think I have experienced the smart basket thing, and like understanding what goes behind and creating that while being in this industry for the past 6 years still blows my mind away how AI can make things easier for everybody else. So thanks for weighing in. Ritesh, would you want to take that question as well?
No, I was just adding on. So it's interesting. Just to give you an example. So we on AI part, we use Amazon recognition engine, and it basically is a face recognition, again linked to security in terms of anybody logging into the app. We use it, make sure that the onboarding process is much smoother, so that the people coming onto the app, the Amazon recognition engine detects if there's any mismatch between the Facebook profile and the person who's joining in. So that, see, in the end, understand this, that dating apps, the base is the same, right? You're coming on a dating app to actually find somebody you want to connect with, right? It's how you make the ease of a person finding a match for a meaningful relationship is the key. Like, for example, on our app, we have given something called tag search. Now, when you come on an app, what is the first thing on dating app you're looking for? You're looking for these profiles, you're swiping right, swiping left, but you're looking for somebody you can immediately start a conversation with, or at least have something to connect with. So a tag search is a feature which, in case when you're onboarding on the app, it'll ask you to select certain tags. So for example, I select A.R. Rahman and I put it on my profile, right? So when I'm looking for a profile on the app, if I press on A.R. Rahman, it will show me all the girls who have also taken A.R. Rahman as the tag search. So it makes my ease of selecting someone who has a common interest very simple, right? So it's how you make it simple for the customer. If you make it customer simple for him to interact on your app, he will be there with you. If you make it complicated, if you make it too difficult for him to, I'm taking the example again of a dating app, for him to meet new people or match with someone, it makes it that much difficult. Thanks.
Yeah. I think okay, I have not experienced that firsthand, but I can understand the power of it, so I can appreciate the thought that goes behind it. So I think I'll take a closing question, and I'll want all of you to weigh in on that. And this has sort of been one of the insights that we very intently wanted to unearth in all the interviews, and that is 2020 basically did not come with a playbook for anything, specifically marketing, like loss of touch points, loss of like literally everything. Like we did not know how to tackle this year. So with everything out of the window, how did your brands, or the brands that you represented at that during the year, how did you kept empathy as at the center of things, or did you keep it? What worked, what not? And this more can be an open question, but I would want all of you guys to weigh in, so that we sort of take that notion getting into the next year and understand how whatever brand engagements were done in this year, how brands can take and move into the coming times as well. I would like Avnish to start there, and then we go around the panel.
So, Rohit, one of the things which happened was that, while so initially when the pandemic started, we were very unsure what to do. Okay, we didn't know how hard we should push, and there was obviously no delivery. So we were not clear how much to spend on marketing, how much to chase, whether we need to do offers or not. So we waited for a while. And then we saw that customers were still coming and browsing with a lot of depth, right? Like a regular customer would do, even without having any guarantee of when the product would be delivered. So that initially gave us a little confidence that yes, possibly in spite of the fact that it's a non-essential category, people still want it. and slowly that started becoming more clear for us. But we still had to kind of keep this balance of being sensitive, because a lot of people were going through a lot of problems, right, health wise and financially and so on and so forth. uh, and some people still wanted to buy, and they were possibly celebrating something which was a nice occasion for them or a nice event. And we realized that actually, before you started doing this with the customer, this started first with your employees. Because while we didn't have to do any laying off or any such thing, thankfully, but we knew that they would have family members who were either afflicted with the virus, or going through family health issues, or going through financial issues or job issues. So there was a lot of, I think, focus first on taking care of the employees. Because like I said, right, we have 600 salespeople, right? Most of our business is still done through our salespeople, and even though the stores were closed, people were calling customers. And I think that because we set the right tone internally by not being very pushy for business and being very sensitive and having empathy for our sales teams and our operations teams, I think it was easy in the way they then took care of the customers. It's very easy to take care of your marketing communication, right? There are 5 people sitting in the main office, fairly in socially intelligent, I would say, who would take care of the way you do your mailers and your other communication and your ads. But it's much harder when 600 people are speaking to customers every day, and they can come across as being very insensitive, right? And because I think we kind of took care of that very well, right? And there were also a lot of other cases, right? There was no delivery for 2 months, and people were calling and saying, okay, where is my product coming? And sometimes shouting also, because they would have planned for some occasion, but it was out of our control, right? So it was very difficult to handle it. Imagine somebody sitting at home, he has internet problems, and the electricity also in some parts of the country is very erratic. And sitting in a small room, right? A lot of people don't understand these issues. They have 10 people, and there are kids who are also attending to school, and he's dealing with an aggrieved customer, and you have to maintain your composure and your sanity to deal with that. And I think people did a great job. So the people part of this was what I think really helped us in this time, and it continues to do so. And I think it just went well because we, I think, dealt well with them internally first, and then they took care of the customers, I think.
100% agreed. I think while I might not have any experience on that side, but I can understand how I can understand how empathy would have played that role, and that is a very good way to look at it as well. So start with your employees, and then everything will translate to everybody else. Rahul, would you want to share something from your side as well?
Yeah, I think while we're building a very strong digital brand, we all started to think of consumers as data points, etc. And actually, that gave us a bit of a pause during the pandemic. We actually said that let's actually treat them as individuals, just not data points. The entertainment category, the OTT category, actually in a way became an essential category. It's not, but it sort of became so crucial for most people because it was the only way for people to actually let go of or kill their time or do whatever they had to in terms of entertainment. So we had to play some roles in the consumer's life more than what we were doing before. I can give you some examples of what we did. Shimaru became the first platform to actually take unreleased films which are going to go to theater straight to consumers on a pay-per-view basis. So it's called Shimaru Box Office. So we actually take films, theaters are closed, but we still ensure that consumers are able to get access to their latest blockbusters and films they wanted to watch on a pay-per-view basis. We had a tie-up with Book My Show, so you actually book your ticket. We had a tie-up with food partners. You can order your popcorn, etc. So to create the complete experience is what we try to do for our consumers. So it was just not an opportunistic move. We also thought of what consumers are missing out on. Another thing we did is very interesting is we actually started to offer a lot of live darshans. All the temples and religious places, mosques that were closed. So we created we sort of put together live streams from 15 major shrines from India and offered it to consumers who could actually get access to their either the live feed of the temple or the aartis or the main prayer times throughout the day, so that they don't miss out on their religious opportunities. So these are some couple of ideas where we actually focused on to sort of continue to build consumer engagements. I also, it also gave me a lot of time to reflect on what personally I'm doing as a marketer, and I'm sure most people in the panel also got this time to reflect a bit more. We've over the years we've become hardwired to work on strategies, and we have to work on measurable outputs. Let's get short-term results. Let's push a bit more. I think that sort of changed a little bit, especially for me. I think empathy as a key word, I think which you also, Rohit, in your question put out, is something which I'm surely going to be focusing on in the long run. I think emotional bonds is what I feel is going to help. Okay, again, going back to a measurable thing, but LTV will only come if we have the emotional bonds. It's not going to come just by pushing our products to consumers. So I think that's something which I look forward to implementing even next year.
I remember getting on a call with you, Rahul, while the COVID was in its full effect and during the lockdown. And I remember you talking about these strategies. And now, when it is in the later stages, I can see how all of that played out. So I can tie all of it together. And there were some great insights, and the playbook that you shared with us, I think that was very helpful for the entire internal team as well. And we could publish a few content pieces that could actually help out our other prospects and customers as well. So I think just a moment of gratitude for that particular call that you did, and tying it back to it.
Thank you.
So Meera and Ritesh, can would you want to weigh in on the question for a quick 20-30 seconds?
I think Anish and Rahul have literally covered everything, and that's true because this situation was unseen. Uncertainty happened everywhere. People didn't know how to react, what to do. And of course, like Anish said, we also had to really look within the team and the people who worked for us, because that was the key. For example, we had a CRM person who used to take care of all the consumer complaints. One thing which happened during the COVID is that percentage went up because people were now sitting at home and wanting more out of your product and brand and didn't know what to do because they can't go out, they can't do anything. So actually what we had to do is actually hire 2-3 more people so that they can do telecalling to these guys and talk to them, resolve their issues, and understand where they're coming from. Earlier, they were sending a mail and used to revert within 24 hours. But we cut that time to 12 hours because we realized that, waiting for that much time, people are getting more irritated and they don't know what to expect out of it. So we ensured that we're cutting that time to 12 hours so that people were getting their solutions faster. And I think that helped because people started realizing that there's some, as humans, I guess, if you feel that there's someone listening to you, you're happy. And if there's somebody to resolve your concerns, even if it takes more time, he's going to be with you. He's going to be loyal to you. And I think that's the key. That's one thing with empathy, or I like the word because I think as marketers, we are introduced to one word every year and we have to then live on it and say, this is a word we were missing all our lives. But the fact is empathy was always there. We couldn't live without it as marketers. So all I'm saying is that it's taught us new things. It's taught us how to cope up. And I think it's more to be in the shoes of the customer who's buying your product. And I think this calling and reducing the call time to 12 hours or solution to 12 hours has helped us as a company, and we've learned from it. And I think that's where we would like to be going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, I think from employees to customers to calling people up, Meera, quick thoughts on that.
See, you asked specifically saying that as the pandemic goes away, what are the kind of things that will continue to remain, which have been constituted recently?
Yep.
From the point of view of customer engagement and experience, I think even if the pandemic goes away next year sometime, all customers across categories are now one big set of paranoid people for whom safety and safe processes matters a lot. And therefore, continuing to communicate that, continuing to stress on that, and be associated with a responsible organization that takes care of both internal as well as external customer safety very importantly, or with a maniacal focus, is going to remain even after the pandemic goes. And I think that is something for everybody to note. I hope everybody has some angle of safety that's now being captured in any and every marketing touch point that goes to customers. Secondly, I don't think the rules of engagement have changed at all. It just became all the more important with people being more anxious than usual, and especially coming from midlife, a healthcare sector, which was all over the place. I think what customers appreciated about midlife even more as compared to what was happening earlier is we have this property called MedX Talks, which is really about getting doctors on board and having them talk about various health issues and debunking common questions or doubts that people have with respect to all the different conditions that they suffer from. MedX at this time was particularly effective in helping people distill the truth from all the kind of ridiculous amount of nonsense that everyone got bombarded with through WhatsApp and other places, right? So it is something that got appreciated a lot. People were genuinely scared and were not in a position to understand what is right and what is wrong, which news to trust and which news to junk. And this is where I think the power of engagement, which beautifully fit in with the brand and the brand philosophy as well, made a very big difference and managed to build more brand love for midlife. Equally, I think from an engagement perspective, another very critical lesson learned is, India is really about Bharat. It is not just about India. And we are glad to have embarked on the entire vernacular journey at midlife on both the app as well as from the point of view of content creation for engagement, where easily a Hindi, a Bengali, a Tamil video does 10x better as compared to an English one, and also gets much better CPCs and your whatever all the cost per X measurements that you have. So I think some valuable lessons learned for going ahead in future, and some to be continued as they were because they were anyways doing the job well.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Meera. I think all of you touched upon very important but different facets of what the crisis brought to marketing, and I'm really thankful for all the insight throughout the session. We are already 10 minutes behind time, so I think with that I'll just express my gratitude to all of you for being here and being a part of the project entirely. I think a lot of back and forth from our side, from you giving your time and through all the trial runs, and finally being on the panel and sharing your first-hand insights with our audience. I can't be more thankful for you to be here. And with that, on that note, I'll just take a moment to introduce the next 1 minute. 1 minute video by Scott Brinker, the father of the Martech, as the world calls him, the founder of the chiefmartech.com. And I think people would recognize him by the Martech landscape that he publishes every year. And this year there have been 8,000 tools for essentially what we do as a business, especially my bread and butter, and the stack that enables you guys to deliver all the customer engagement and personalization. So I think that on that, with that video, we'll transition into our next session, and we'll just move into that video. And thank you again for being a part of this session. And we'll release the ebook on Parallel as well in the chat.
Good evening. And a fantastic welcome to all of you to the Fireside Chat. The topic of today's discussion is building the right data foundation and how do we do marketing with data. And with me, I have two fantabulous esteemed guests, and one of them being Ravi Santanam, who's with the HDFC Bank. He's the CMO there. And to tell you a bit more about him, I think a very interesting experience that he brings to the table. He's not only worked in the field of banking, but he's also done enough and more in the telecom space. And with his vast 20 years of experience, he brings to the table a lot more in the areas of data, device, content, innovation, digital. You name it, he's got his experience there. With him alongside for this interesting conversation, I have Lloyd Matthias, who's an investor, an angel investor. He's a leading marketer. He's got enough and more experience with some leading brands like HP, Tata Docomo, Motorola, PepsiCo. And together today, we're going to have an interesting conversation around what data can do for us. And before we get into that, Ravi, Lloyd, I think we had a very interesting list of speakers before us. Wherein you'll find it much easier, Ravi, for yourself, okay? Because they came with certain data challenges, which were, the buyer persona and the user persona were very different. There was one space. There's another wherein we spoke about how, people are so used to watching cinema in the theaters and now suddenly on the app. So how do you ensure that people, after they become an engaged user base, how are they still able to share more data and content with the marketer? So very different space, but I'm going to come back to you on this. You know what? Over time, today between the two of you, Lloyd and Ravi, we have almost 50 years of experience talking, okay, and across categories. And in each one of you, both of you have gone through a certain journey of how consumers were spoken to then and how we're talking to consumers today. And this brings me to you, Ravi. There's an interesting quote wherein you've spoken of, speaking to customer and speaking with customer. Would you like to elaborate a bit more on that for these listeners today?
Sure. Thanks, Santosh. I think when we all started our careers and whenever we used to have a meeting, many of the bosses would troop into the room and then they will say, what is the message that we are going to take to the customers? What are we going to tell them today? What is the next campaign that you're planning to do? And what is it that you're going to tell them? And that's the way marketing has always functioned, where brands had the upper hand in terms of the way in which the message was taken to the customers. And what is the value proposition? What is it that we as a brand are being to the customers and everything? And that suddenly changed somewhere around 2010 with some green shoots coming called as internet, and did not change much for the first 10 years till the smartphone came in at around 2010. Then suddenly the internet became a tool for everybody to actually reach out to anybody else in the world. And I'm also an engineer, and the physics tells me there are only three things or three legs which a chair needs for it to be the most stable. And for this internet world and the telecom world, what we needed was access network, which the telecom operators created, including Lloyd when he was there in Tata, and the content which Facebook did, and the devices which Apple started off with. So all three came together and the rest is history. While telecom is not given the credit which it has to be given, because I worked for 15 years in telecom, I will want to take it. So all these three things came and suddenly everybody became digital. And moment digital started, the ability of the consumers to raise their voice changed. So no more the brand had the only say when it came to how it is being perceived by the customers. The customers voted with their comments, customers voted with their likes, the customers voted with their own quotes of what the brand is, what the experience is. So suddenly talking to them is no more an option. What you need to do is talk with them.
Right.
And when you're talking with them, the first question they always ask is, if I'm having a conversation with you, I need to be interesting to you. I need to be engaging with you. I need to be relevant to you. So effectively, it is the same fundamentals of what we learned from Lloyd way back also. Like, what is the relevancy of your communication? Nothing changed. Nothing changed. There also we were asked the same question, but we were not able to do that relevancy at a single individual or a small cohort level. We were doing it at a wider level. Now the technology has enabled us to talk with the customers on matters which actually engage them and are relevant to them.
Right.
Great point, Ravi. And if I can jump in here, Santosh, I think Ravi is, kind of articulated it quite well. I think the one big kind of change that one looks at, if I were to look at again the same kind of last 20-year period, I think the other part is really the sheer number of campaigns, right? Thanks to this, you can say the spread of access, devices, and great content. But also what's happening is that you're able to roll out far many more campaigns. Just to give you an example, in the late 90s, in my days at Pepsi, we used to work and plan around, say, 3 or 4 big campaigns a year, well researched, do the storyboards, work with the agency, look at the consumer insights, go through the whole, thing, and then, break a big campaign primarily on television and then the whole 360-degree. I think now, and my last stint at HP, we typically found ourselves doing between anything upwards of 20, maybe sometimes even 35, 40 campaigns a year. So it's literally every fortnight we're running campaigns in parallel across new products, speaking to newer audiences. So I think it's the sheer pace and energy that this coming together of the internet, devices, and content has enabled, that you're able to reach out consumers at a much faster pace. So I think that's one point which I see as a significant difference. The second, as Ravi nicely articulated, is that as a marketer, you don't no longer control the tone and tenor of the communication entirely, right? You put down an idea or a piece of communication, and consumers tend to take their own out of it. And given the spread of social media, everyone in effect is publisher, right? So everyone has a point of view, and he can state his point of view, he can share it with his friends, and it can go viral in no time, as we've seen in a few instances in the recent past. So in a sense, as a marketer right now, you're more of a content curator, right? You put up the idea and thought that resonates with your brand, and then you kind of curate the conversation to your advantage, but you don't have end-to-end control. So it's not that a lovely 30-second TV commercial and I'm going to buy 3 months of great ad time on prime time networks and have everyone see my one consistent message. Now the message is going to get, you can say, shaken around as it goes. So, and the third, of course, is, like I said, is the faster execution, that you can do things much faster. Between an idea and a campaign, it could be as little as a few hours. And of course, sometimes you can even change things on the fly. If I could just elaborate a little bit, I would say that some things have remained constant. And my one bit of takeaway in this entire thing is that there is no substitute for deep consumer insight. Understand your consumer, understand his pain points, address it. I think that remains. Second, of course, is staying relevant to him. If your brand and your message plays no relevance to him, you would always be discarded. So staying relevant. And I think thirdly is really telling a story in a kind of way that resonates with him, whether it's using humor, whether it's solving a problem, but telling him a story in a slightly emotive, right? So catalogs and pamphlets and product listings don't really sell, they don't really get information. It's telling a story. But really, that's the kind of one big significant shift that I've seen, and I just wanted to weigh in on.
Fantastic. Has collecting data become easier or more difficult?
It depends on what technology platform that you have put yourself in. Yes, obviously, if you asked us 10 years back, it would have been, I would have said, very difficult. Today, it is not difficult. The ability to use the data is difficult.
That's the next point. I was just going to lead you into that, Ravi. So if you look at, if I put you as a banker, people willingly give you information. Okay, I think they don't have a choice but to give you all the data. But what about those marketers? So my colleagues prior to this session who were dealing with the situation wherein consumers have to be pulled into sharing information. What is the advice we can give to them? So there are multiple areas. Okay, I'll break it down into 2 parts, Ravi, for ease of thing. For the non-banking community, what should be the advisory or the next steps to collect data in a good way? And then the next point would be definitely how do you use that data, consumption of the data? And from your own perspective, have things got easier in terms of, or given the choices, there's a lot of user-generated data as well, right? Mm-hmm. It's no longer just the information that you collect to open an account. There's so much more information available. How best to use that? So I know I have put 4 questions into one. Pick your choice.
Okay. First, I will talk about people who do not have data because of the fact that they're working in multiple industries which do not have this data. My only input to them is don't overthink too much. Don't overthink. Because at the end of the day, if you are a soap manufacturer, people are not going to think about you for 24 hours of the day. Maybe they're going to think about you for 1 hour of the day, before and after taking the bath and after using the soap. For that, there is enough available if you do social listening, if you do enough of just keeping your eyes and ears open, and you do have to go to the market. And once you go to the market, you learn a lot, and you're also a consumer. There are enough opportunities available for you to know what happens. Industries like ours, industries like telecom, has this innate characteristic of user generated. That is, if you don't use it, it's a crime. Whereas if you're not in that kind of an industry, you need to also think that is there a need for user generated? Because it comes to the second question. I'm getting a lot of echo.
Yeah, me too. I too am getting an echo.
So none of us are speaking.
Lloyd, you want to say something? Oh, I'm also in echo.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't seem to be getting an echo though.
Yeah. Now I think it has calmed down.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Ravi. Complete.
So we need to collect the data only when we know that there is a use case. So whenever we have started collecting the data, we have always started thinking about what is the use case and how we can use the data that you have collected and what is it that it will do for the customer. You can collect the data. If you can't use it for the benefit of the customer, why are we doing it? So the first question that we always ask ourselves is the simple question. Okay, this data is available. You're going to collect it. We are going to curate it. We are going to look at it. What do you think is going to come and tell you? And what is it that you will take the customer, any kind of a problem you're going to solve for them, or some kind of a benefit that you're going to give for them, or some kind of an intervention that you're planning to do should be enabled by this data. If you don't get that kind of an idea, don't collect the data to start with. And everybody has got humongous amount of data. The usage is dependent purely on the business case that you can think of or the use case that you can think of. And again, the use case has to be from the consumer perspective. So if you want to collect the data, go ahead and collect it. And there are enough information that's already available. And first use that to make your story to the consumer better. I'm sure every organization, irrespective of whichever way in which you look at, there is data available about the customer. Maybe the billing data is a good enough indicator for a FMCG company to start with. Where do you bill what? That's available with them already. So even if that can be started off with, that can be the input for you to do something about your distribution. And that's what we have done in telecom. We exactly know how much we are billing where. So we had used that for our market expansion, distribution expansion, to see where the site has to be. So all these things we have done basis data, working backwards, not necessarily only from a consumer perspective, but also from an organizational perspective. It all depends on the use case of what you have with the data, and then you can collect more and more information. You're on mute.
Sorry, Ravi, I just went PCC you from what you said. Purpose, collect, curate, use case.
Yes.
Simple way to remember what are the things to do. So if anybody who's thinking, I have way too much data, here's a checkpoint for you. Find the purpose, ensure that you're collecting the right data point, curate it well, and define the use cases, and therefore you will have a good background to how you want to define customer journeys. And this also leads to a point that today, there are enough and more. So we've come a journey, right? Earlier it was a broadcast. Today, most market is also thinking, whom should I speak to? When should I speak to? Another challenge that we spoke of earlier in the previous conversation also was, like I said earlier, who's the buyer and who's my user? And therefore, how do we go about it? So if I have to give my housing experience, my son is looking for many things, but the one browsing is my father, his grandfather. So how do you deal with such situations? How do we identify whom we're talking to? And then how do you plan your communication?
To me?
Yeah, Ravi, Lloyd, anybody, open question. Sorry, I'll aim next time.
Okay, so I'll just say what we do at HDFC Bank. It's a very simple thing, because when it is about a car loan, for example, you know for sure that the car loan is a much bigger decision than an individual decision alone. So you need to now do not only a targeted marketing to your customer, who is the person who holds the account, but also how do you cover their families. If you don't cover their families, because they are also having a great influence on the car purchase process. And if it is a home buying process, you better be aware that 6 months you have to talk to the entire family. So for us, it is relatively simple. Even if it is an investment decision for your retirement, for a marriage in the family, for an education that you're going to do, you always know that the thought process of the individual is for the benefit of somebody. And so you need to also show how the benefit accrues or how this particular customer is able to take the right call or take the right financial decision for the benefit of somebody. So if you show the benefit accruing to that user, the customer actually feels very good about it. In this case, the decision maker, in my view, is the same. But if it is a home loan, you talk to the family.
It's always the lady of the house in the case of home loan, in more often than not. Yeah. So I think the buying cycles are very difficult. But do you see, as we move along, there's so much of data computing that is involved. Majority of the banks have a BI team, and of course they now have an in-house analytics team. There was an era where there were a lot of analytics service offerings being available. Now most of the banks prefer to make it in-house. What is the role that AI is playing, and at what pace?
Oh, it has improved tremendously in HDFC Bank to the extent that we are almost in the cutting edge of hypothesis generation by AI. I think, okay. So maybe initially we were going to only linear regression models, but nowadays the kind of modeling my team does is far higher. We have gone into supervised learning, unsupervised learning kind of modeling. And basically, prediction in our view is passé because it's not difficult to predict going forward. So the prediction analytics that we used to do, and I think that's passé now. For us, what we are trying to do is we don't want to predict behavior at HDFC Bank. We want to shape the behavior of customers. So if you want to shape the behavior of customers, the kind of AI or the analytical tools that you require are much different than simple logarithmic regression that you will do to do some kind of a prediction or a forecast or something of that sort. I think we have moved away from that stage. It's a long way to go. It's a journey. And we are very keen on understanding what we call as the journey analytics. Meaning, what does the customer do when you have so much of properties? Being a bank, the customers are coming and leaving their footprint on the property of the bank, whether it is our mobile banking, net banking, website. At least 5 to 6 times people are coming, doing transactions, going outside and swiping their cards. And we do know a lot about it. So what can we do basis all these steps? Plus, in addition, there are humongous amount of touch points wherein they walk into a branch, they are talking to a teller, maybe they are calling up the call center. How do you bring all these journeys together? And this is where big data has come in, because this data size on the digital side is at least maybe 100 times the size of what people do in terms of their transactions. Because there are a lot more of window shopping people who come into your website to figure out before they actually go ahead and take that call. Nobody gets down on the right side of the bed and say, I will go and buy a car today. It's a very thought through decision. So they are leaving footprints. For you to understand those footprints, bring it out together, I don't think without latest technology tools, we would be in a position to do it. What has also helped is whatever little that we all have done, we have seen a big shift, the needle shifting tremendously in terms of our ability to go to the right segment of customers. So, and the second thing is, if something has happened and if you have understood the journey of a specific customer, and I'll give you a simple engagement number, not even a purchase decision. People getting into mobile banking, and then after that mobile banking, doing a fund transfer. The fund transfer is the most difficult decision for many people to do on the mobile banking, because they're going to go and give up all their misgivings about technology and going and saying that I am going to transfer money from my account. It doesn't happen so naturally. What we have been able to do is to go back and look at what kind of actions people who did the first fund transfer took before they actually did the fund transfer. And you can see the digital natives who are there joining, say, any of these top corporates and opening their accounts with HDFC Bank. The moment the first salary comes, you can see the fund transfer on day one. You don't have to teach them because they are very comfortable doing that. But not all the people are comfortable doing that kind of a stuff, because they're still used to the way of saying, this is my money. And we are happy having much more security conscious people there. And we're also very security conscious there. But we have seen the journey which people have taken. So our shaping behavior models are looking at what people have done So I know that the Z at SEP is the fund transfer, but I am seeing you at E. So what should I do now? I'm not asking you to do Z. I'm only asking you to do FGH. Let me slowly migrate you and nudge you towards this. And that's where I think the old marketing school also comes back and saying, how do we nudge behavior? What are the behavioral economics? How do I remove the cognitive load? How do I remove the motor load in the way in which people do the transaction? So all these inputs go in terms of small changes that we can do to make sure that the final plunge the customer when he takes or she takes, it's a very conscious, thought through decision. It's a very comfortable decision because we want the customers to come back and it's not only about it has to do it again and again. And how do you encourage them? How do you engage with them? How do you make them comfortable doing
that? This actually brings me to the point, Lloyd, the depth of the combination and the customizations and the different facets we need to look at. What's your take on that? I mean, I understand that from a single campaign we used to do earlier, now the sort of campaigns that happen. What's your take on this?
Thanks, Santosh. So I just wanted to briefly react to something that Ravi said, and I think I just want to. A lot of industries which consumers are constantly transacting online, banking for one or telecom for the other. There's a continuous stream of data, connectivity that ensures that you can take real-time decisions and you can nudge them. However, if you look at the more traditional categories, right, and in a sense the pre-internet categories, and I'm talking of my HP experience, when you basically had two big lines of business, the PC and the printing business. Now there, what you did was you really got one set of data points. When a person purchases his PC, he logs in for the first time and he sends his warranty card to your customer center. And then, of course, if he has an outage or a problem, or he reverts to a customer center. Now, in this context, you're not able to analyze very specific, immediate behavioral cues at a daily, weekly basis. And in HP, of course, the case was then there are also people who buy printers. Now, in each case, one had to develop predictive mechanisms that had to be tested. And quite rightly, what happens is that they vary, right? So a digitally savvy digital native who buys a laptop, in a year and a half time, he's already up for looking at improvements, etc. Whereas a more traditional customer who's got a home desktop is looking at a 5-6 year cycle. And if you're not able to time your next round of communication at an appropriate time, you miss out. Or if within a month of him buying a new laptop, if you're targeting him with a new one from the same company, you're going to cheese him off. And then, of course, the ability to cross-pollinate the data, because a person who buys a high-end laptop or a desktop is likely to be a printer user. And what is the kind of printer you want to pitch at him? So I think some of these, they require good intuition coupled with great amount of data, right? So big data at one level is good and rich, but the ability to cross-pollinate this and use it effectively, I think, is one of the big challenges. And these challenges are far more severe in, you can say, non-internet industries, right? I'm sure for a bank like HDFC, 90% of a lot of transactions happen online. So they can build a great profile of a customer, etc. They know almost all his demographics, when he pays his bill, which operators, who's his preferred cab operator, does he order more from Swiggy or Zomato or whatever else. Not so for a more traditional industry, right? For a PC and printer, you've got to kind of hunt in that haystack of data. You've got to try models and such like, and that's challenging. Coming to your question in terms of the need for customizing content to today's customers, I think it's critical. And what I believe is that with the coming of AI in marketing, you can enjoy much higher agility, you can have greater cost efficiencies, and you can also gain customer insights, something that we underplay quite a bit. When you know what a customer does, how he behaves, you get a lot of customer insights. I would look at how AI is really improving marketing really around, I would say, 4 or 5 key buckets. I think the first and the one that's least used is what I would say is rich real-time customer insights. The fact that you know exactly what your consumer is up to at his last transaction, specifically if you're in a business that's very internet enabled. So I think one is the richness of insights. I think the second is the ability, to your point on customization, Santosh, of improving the customer experience, right? Now that you have the customer very well profiled, you know his buying behavior, you possibly know his involvement in other categories, you possibly have some inputs from his social media history. How can you create a more personalized experience, right? You'll know there are enough cues for it to create a personalized experience. The third, very clearly, is the lower cost of acquisition, right? You're no longer shooting bullets in the air, right? You're shooting very precise pieces of communication at precise times to precise consumers. It's like the marketer's dream. Now you can be far more targeted and therefore lower cost. And aligned to that is the fact that it's kind of precise targeting to the most relevant audience, right? So right customer, right time, right message, kind of pretty much completes the package. The last point all this adds on to, and I think which is the big advantage that that marketers are still coming to terms with and exploring, is the ability to drive higher revenues, right? So you can have great customer experience, you can reduce your lower cost of customer acquisition, you can customize your campaigns, but all this is going to give you benefit in terms of being able to drive revenues, right? More traffic and engagement means increased conversions, which means higher revenues. And I think that's the aspect that needs to be played out. Very often as marketers, we get caught into this whole AI trap of saying, how do I reduce cost? I think that's one aspect of it. But the moment you improve customer experience, you're actually helping drive revenues. And that, to my mind, is where that really needs to be used and shouted.
That's an interesting take, Lloyd. I'll just add to that. See, 5 years back, 10 years back, when the traditional communication-based marketers were asked the question, almost everybody by cliche will say, oh, 50% is wasted in marketing. I don't know which is that 50%. Today, nobody can say that because it is easy for you to measure the impact a marketing person can create. And to that extent, I call myself a proud revenue marketer. I'm not a brand marketer. I bring revenue into the company. I can actually clearly say this is exact revenue I brought in because the measurement technology is there and direct revenue attribution can be done to the efforts that the marketing teams can do today. And that's a big change. And people who are understood and appreciated and acted on it have really done well for those companies.
Well said, Ravi. Totally echo that. Absolutely.
Fantastic. I have a question for you, Ravi. Just came in. The question goes, HDFC from 0 to 650,000 crores is the biggest startup Indian financial sector has seen. With finance now becoming more like fintech, how has marketing poised at HDFC?
Yeah, it is the biggest startup, and the man who created is retiring on Monday. So he's super innovating, but the brand stays, and the culture that we all are very proud of on HDFC Bank stays. And it's all about putting customer first, getting your process right. And he keeps saying that banking is very simple. And in even yesterday's interview, he said that thing about how marketing has also come and helped in the last 3 years. What we have done in HDFC Bank is, from a traditional banking kind of a brand, we are trying to shift and say we are a technology company in the banking space and we will provide financial experience. Satosh, can I ask you to go on mute? Thanks. I am not getting it. So we are trying to position ourselves as a full gamut financial experience powered primarily by digital. And when it comes to majority, as Loud was indicating, there are already 90% transactions are digital. The most interesting thing is digital for cost reduction, which is process improvements in one way of looking at it. I think HDFC Bank has done a lot and we will continue to do. But digital for value creation is our focus. So digital for cost reduction is just converting your current paper movement to, for example, a physical process of converting that paper into a digital process and moving the paper. But what we are keen on and what I am extremely keen on as the company is keen on now is how do I create a front-end digital approval process and a digital disbursal process. So for existing customers of HDFC Bank, we have these phenomenal pre-approved processes already available because you have been banking with us. We know exactly what the customer is all about, how much they are bringing in every month, how much they are taking out every month. So it doesn't take much time for us to take a call whether to give the money to that customer or not. And in 2014-15 itself, we started off with our 10-second loan. But we want to do that now with the technology developments that has happened in the India and with the APIs that are being available. How do I do it for an absolutely new to bank customer who we do not know anything about? So we want to get into a 10-second approval process for a new to bank customer who for the first time is engaging with HDFC Bank. And that's what you will see in the next 9 months. So marketing is defined as owning the brand experience as per me. And the brand experience is anything which the customer touches, because all the thing the customer touches, whether what they see, what they hear, and what they feel, all impacts brand experience. And that is what we are keen on in converting ourselves into an experience-led business, because we strongly believe if you are not an experience-led business, you are not in business.
Fantastic. I have a question for you, Lloyd. While we're building a strong customer data, and we have migrated from the erstwhile data capture to now digital data capture to a lot of scanning of data, it's far easier to capture data from consumers today. What's your take on the privacy policies or issues as far as data consumption is concerned?
Great question, Santosh, and very relevant. I think marketers in general, my view is that marketers in general have still kind of yet to come to terms with the whole issue of privacy, right? One is the GDPR regulations that must be there too. And that to my mind is more the hygiene element of it. I think the other part is taking privacy to the next level is also understanding that an extension of this privacy is also respecting the consumer touch points. There are cues that you want to provide the consumer in terms of pushing him to buy your product or considering him, getting him into the consideration set. But there are also times that one has to respect the fact that, one should not be contacting a consumer more than a certain periodicity, right? And I think that is the fine line that marketers have to use a little bit of human judgment and intuition, right? My view is that between offending, spamming a customer, it's better to miss on that contact opportunity. Might seem like an opportunity lost, but I think long term, you still, as a marketer, are the custodian of the regard the consumer has for the brand. So you've got to watch for that, right? The second point, which is a little build on what Ravi mentioned, saying that you could start with using AI as a cost saving, right? So having things like chatbots, etc., are good because they reduce the pressure on your call center, or having armies of people sitting and responding to consumers manually, because that does pretty well. But I think the key yardstick has to always remain improved customer experience. If the customer is coming out satisfied with that transaction, increasing his value of purchase or whatever, you've met your goal, right? But just getting it down, saying that I've dropped my call center numbers from 20,000 people at the phones down to 200, and having a lot of consumers exit your brand as an option, I think is a no option, right? So something that one has to consider. Really looking at it from the customer value standpoint as looking at it from the cost reduction standpoint. And I think the last point I want to really make on the whole ethical aspect of using data is to value it and kind of do the test on yourself, right? There are those creepy feelings when a brand starts reaching out to you in funny circumstances that you don't feel comfortable with, right? So what's kind of no good is not to contact consumers during off hours. Avoid late night, etc. Avoid possibly Sunday afternoons, but just have a little bit more, use human judgment, use intuition. And I think that's something that marketers need to look at besides just, kind of playing within GDPR regulations.
One question that
that's a great point, Lloyd. I think just to add, because that's a great point, that the acid test that he talked about, that use it on yourself. I think we used to say in telecom for privacy, saying that I can figure out who you call, what time you call, everything is fine, but you can't listen to that call. See, when you listen to the call, it's called snooping. So similarly, I can figure out what all you do in your account, but there has to be an acid test in terms of what is it that you would love to do going forward. And we keep pushing ourselves in the team also, saying if this is the kind of personalized communication you're going to do for your company, see for yourself as the recipient and how comfortable you are, and you don't take the call alone, go and talk to somebody outside. Because invariably, when I am so passionately involved, I don't think it's a problem. That's what my team comes and tells me. Sir, this is not a problem. Ravi, this is not a problem. I say, okay, no problems. Let's go to somebody who is unconnected with this and ask them, like, if I give you the solution, how would you feel? So that actually, and every company has enough people who are not connected to that operation that you are doing at that point of time. Just a cross check of 2, 3, 4, 5 people, acid test. I think at least 90% of the mistakes can be avoided. That's a brilliant point.
So according to you, what would be the ideal nudge per customer? This is a question I always get from marketers. So what should be my contact policy? Given that
my view is we have set up something for the bank, and it's a universal contact policy that is not more than one per day. Okay, and that's a generic policy. When it comes to the super premium customers, it's one per week, and anything more than one per week, you have to take permission. It also increases the point Lloyd was making, and all of us say, are you relevant? You're going to talk to 4 times a consumer. What is it that you are missing every time? How is it that you are relevant for 30 days of a month as a relevant message? So, which means you have done a very poor job of converting that customer previously. So, something is wrong if you want to communicate with that customer every day. If it is an offer-led brand, that daily you are having some offer for the consumers, and it can be across category. You have every right to be on a daily, weekly, or hourly communication also, because it is for the benefit of the customer. So depending on the industry, depending on how you engage with the customer, these things cannot be defined as a general basis, but you should be asking only this question: is it relevant? If it is relevant, I don't think there is a need for a number. But if it is irrelevant, even once a month is wrong.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ravi. That really sums up how many times to reach out to a customer based on the relevance. One last question before we part is what would be your advice to our leading marketers today on 3 things they should do to build the data right? And question open to both. Whoever goes first, buzzer.
Okay, I'm taking the liberty of getting. I think the one point we just talked about was really respecting privacy, right? Don't make him feel creepy about it, and therefore be hypersensitive to spamming. The second point, and in a sense ironical that we are on an AI session and talking about it, is the ability to avoid data fatigue. Let me explain what I mean by this. By this, I mean there is no substitute for real intuition, right? After a while, we get kind of so comfortable in our algorithms and understanding our predictability matrices and knowing that, we have got a good strike rate. I think there is no substitute for real contact with real consumers in the real marketplace. And I understand, in these COVID scenarios and all, it's not possible to walk into bank branches or walk into your stores as much as you would in the real world. But I think, again, you're using technology smartly sometimes paves the way. I'll give a small example of something that we had initiated when I was at HP. Was the whole point that there's nothing as real as listening to a consumer who spent 75,000 buying a cool new laptop or a great printer for about 10,000 rupees, and then having a problem in the first week, right? And therefore, we made it mandatory that every employee in the company would have to tap into about 90 minutes of listening to the call center. It's not the most interesting thing. Very often you hear gullies and you hear, unparliamentary language, if I can call it that. But it's a great reality check, right? You think you've got this machine that's God's gift to mankind. And here's a consumer who in his first week is just finding either something wrong or just discovering that the cost of the cartridge is crazy. And you want to hear him firsthand, right? Obviously, now people didn't have tapping mechanisms. So all they could do was listen. They couldn't intervene. I think the reality of going out to the market, understanding consumer speak, understanding his real feeling is a great way. And therefore, the next point is that great AI algorithms are a reflection of real human behavior. If you're able to build your algorithm around how real people look, feel, and behave, that's what's going to work, right? And no matter how smart the machine is, I think you'll have to put those little checks, balances, and tweaks in place to make it evolve more richly. So my belief is respect privacy as much as you can to the extent possible. Be hypersensitive to taking good care of your consumer. It's an extension of your customer delight. And thirdly, don't miss out on the opportunity of listening to real people and real consumers. That's where you're really going to make your product superior.
Oh, that's beautifully put, right? And I would avoid the consumer side of it, and I'll go to the technology side of it because he has covered it beautifully. And our question to our people is always like, okay, you're coming and telling me there is a 500,000 customers, but do you know and do you remember there is a flesh and blood behind that? Okay, do you understand that flesh and blood? Okay, that's the key for any marketer, because another interesting thing which I keep telling a lot of people is like people can come and do technology far better than any one of you every 5 years. Okay, so if you want to be relevant for yourself, please make sure the only thing that will actually stand you in good stead is your deep consumer understanding, because that cannot be developed overnight. But technology today, it is A, tomorrow it is going to be B, and somebody who understands B will always overpower the A, and it's going to happen much, much bigger going forward. So as an individual person, please put a lot of energy into understanding the core consumer, their behavior, their attitudes, and get a lot of inputs on that. On the technology side, 3 quick points. You have to understand it is a journey. It is not a one time and start and forget it kind of a stuff. Data is a journey. Using of data is a journey. We will all make mistakes, but you should have the courage to stay the course. And the company, the organization, everybody should have the courage to stay the course, but you should start. If you have not started, start. But it's a journey. You have to remember this very, very clearly, because there are going to be lots of time and you'll all be questioned. Oh, you have been doing something for 1 year, 2 years, nothing has come out of it and all. So it should a journey be very clear. Second is have a very clear use case to start with. And I keep repeating this because people start doing a lot of things without a real use case which has a business impact. Once you have a business or a consumer impact on your first use case, the courage to stay the course increases dramatically. And third is bring all your data together. Do not go with only one side of the data. Like for example, I'll take the same example what Lloyd was talking about, the call center. It is so difficult and painful to get a message from the organization when the customer has actually made a complaint, saying my bank transfer, somebody has done something, so I'm raising a complaint. Okay, credit card lost, stolen, blocked. Next 10 seconds later, he has just finished the call. He's in this kind of a palpitated kind of a behavior, because at the end of the day, he has lost his credit card. Somebody can misuse it, whatever it is. Next half an hour later, if he gets an email from the company saying, here is a fantastic offer on your credit card, what will he think? What will she think? So if you do not bring the data together, you will end up in these kind of situations. So first thing is, while you do with a small amount of data, try and see, use your intuition to bring what is it that the best data that you can bring together, and bring it all together for the benefit of the use case. And that use case has to be for the benefit of the customer and the organization. And that will ensure that you stay the course of this journey.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ravi. Thank you, Lloyd. Really excited to have you both here. I think we have a good round of discussions, good questions, good points raised. A little more time from the audience, but I'm going to hand over the note back to my name buddy Santosh, who's going to invite the next set of speakers for the next session, which is going to be talking about personalization having a competitive advantage. So please stay tuned. We're moving over to the next session with a great set of panelists. Thank you so much, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you, Lloyd.
Santosh, thanks, Ravi. Great being on this. Thank you.
Bye.
Good evening, everyone, again. So thanks for staying back. We are running a little late, but you won't regret it. You're going to join in a power panel now. So, and we've kept the best for the last. So we have, I'll just start with a speaker introduction. Just before that, a minute on the topic. So today we are going to talk about personalization, a competitive advantage. Key points that we're planning to cover is digital first focus and how omnichannel customer experience is working out, how we're going to use AI from being present to driving a brand presence, and delivering personalization using the advanced platforms that are there. Joining us, we have an amazing set of speakers with us. I'll start with a quick introduction, and then the speakers will chime in with their views on this topic. So Shweta is a business and marketing leader with an intersection of technology, telecom, and entertainment. She is a seasoned professional with 18 plus years of experience and with stints in advertising, followed by key roles at IBM, Vodafone. She's currently at the helm of new initiatives at Z5, including kids, gamification, and UGC. We have Sanjay, who has 2 decades worth of experience in building brands that drive growth. He has worked in global, regional, and local marketing roles in technology, e-commerce, and consumer goods industries. He is the head of marketing APAC at Uber. We have Ayush's journey from IIM Lucknow to marketing roles in the industry, setting up Seniority.in, and now building Code Foxy. Spans across 7 years, and he's our champ in building apps. And we have Akshay, who comes from conventional industry, that is jewelry, and he's bringing it online. And he has skills in brand management, marketing strategy, performance improvement. He heads marketing at Canry by Kalyan Jewelers. So I'll start with my first question. Actually, before that, Sanjay, if you could chime in with your views on the topic, personalization as a competitive advantage, and we'll move over to questions after that. So just a quick announcement, Sanjay has another event that he's moderating, so he might have to step out. So we'll take Sanjay's part. He might not be available for the Q&A.
Got it. So thank you, Santosh, for having me here. Super excited to be part of this panel. I hope everyone who's here is keeping safe and is doing well. You know, personalization has always been a form of competitive advantage, right from history. And even if you look at our local grocer, our local chemist, our hairstylist, our gym instructor, all of them are able to strike a personal rapport with you, and that becomes their competitive advantage. I think what technology enables us to do is to deliver this personalized experience at scale. And if I were to say what builds long-term competitive advantages, if personalization can help reduce the cognitive load of using the service, so make it easier, make it simpler for our users, and at the same time, increase the joy of using that. So add a little bit of magic, add a little bit of surprise, then you're able to build sustainable competitive advantage. So I'm super excited to be part of this panel.
Hey, thanks, Sanjay. And Shweta, over to you. Please share your views on the topic.
Hi, sorry, Santosh. I think my work admin has disabled camera access overall globally, so I'm unable to put my video on. But getting back into the topic, I think personalization is something that is top of mind for everybody. Specifically for a digital platform such as ours, which is known and expected to deliver personalization to all our users. Considering we gather customer data, personalization becomes all the more critical. Now at Z5, we have various avenues for personalization. One is in terms of user experience, where we curate journeys, where we curate experiences for the user in terms of the content that is showcased to the people who come on the platform. And the other part of personalization is catering to our advertisers who come and target these users on the platform. Now, both go hand in hand. Plus, we are also challenged with elements like making advertising as non-intrusive as possible, delivering a certain kind of value to the user, keeping it very, very non-intrusive, even if it's a free user. And to the advertisers, we have a commitment in terms of delivering the right kind of targeting. Now, personalization is of course the end result, but in terms of the journey that we go through, in terms of actually having the data, modeling it, working with partners who do the lookalike modeling for us, who help us identify attributes, segmenting the data, categorization of data, and then kind of delivering personalization to each cohort. So that's the entire gamut that kind of then manifests as personalization. But there's a lot that goes in the back end, both from a user point of view and from the advertiser point of view. And considering Z5 has now launched some new segments for youth, which is games, which is Play on Z5. We've launched Hippie, which is TikTok's competitor for video content. Our promise to advertisers is that they get to target the right kind of audience in newer and personal ways. It's not about having fancy ad formats, and I offer a plethora of banners and formats. That's just the vehicle. but in terms of seamlessly integrating the brand's proposition into the platform itself, while like for gamification, we have rewarded videos. For Hippie, which is our UGC platform, we have we're setting up an influencer marketplace. We're looking at curated challenges that people can take up. So integration of the brand to deliver a certain kind of personalization, that's also something that we're working on. So basically, this topic has several legs for the user, for the advertiser, and it's a very exciting charter for all of us as marketers to be addressing.
Hey, thanks, Shweta. I'll come back to you on the video bit. Since we have 2 more minutes with Sanjay, I will jump on to a question to Sanjay. And Sanjay, if you need to leave, post that. Sanjay, during our conversation, you had mentioned Uber is a phygital business at the intersection of physical and digital. So what are your top priorities in ensuring technology is optimally leveraged and ensure that you utilize it for the competitive as a competitive advantage at your end?
Cool. So I'm going to try and do a course on speed speaking. So I have exactly 2 minutes to jump. So what I'm going to say, Santosh, is that you're right. For us, experience trumps advertising, and we pay a lot of attention to how we can deliver good personalized experience. The trick for us really is that we can't productize our experience, because each rider and driver interaction is different. So how do we leverage technology to enable that? We follow very similar processes where we map the customer journey, try and identify what is important or what is the most important aspect in that journey. And then within that point, what is the most important aspect for the customer? But what technology enables us to do is then productize it. So let me give you a very simple example. If you look at safety, we think of it as pre-tip, during trip, and post-trip. And if I look at the COVID example for now, where we have a policy which is no mask, no ride, pre-tip, both the rider and the driver need to take a selfie where they need to show that they're wearing a mask and the system detects that. Just prior to taking the trip, they have the ability to cancel on the app to say whether the other person's wearing a mask, and post-trip, they're able to give feedback. So what potentially could have been a very complex algorithm can be solved very simply by technology and just enable that everybody is able to have the same customer interaction. And more importantly, for defaulters on the platform, we can take sterner action without stern action being there for every user. So you're able to reduce the friction for every user and make the hurdle rate a lot higher for users who don't comply. With that, I have to jump. You guys have a wonderful discussion. See you later.
Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Bye.
Hey, while Sanjay had to move out, we have an amazing panel with us right now. And Ayush, I'd move on to you with your perspective on the topic. And probably you may want to chime into Sanjay's point as well.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, Satosh, basically, one of the oldest principles in business is that profits are generated when value is created, right? And just to Shweta's point on the value generated from being able to personalize the experience for a user spans across the user's journey, right? And this starts well before the user has even discovered your product, right? It starts with you planning your advertising strategy in a manner of deciding who discovers your product. Today, advertising technology, the marketing, the MarTech tools out there allow you to very specifically define the kind of consumers that you show your ads to, right? So that instead of wasting your money on irrelevant audiences, you're able to spend your money with relevant folks only. And hopefully, since you're relevant to them, your ads aren't as irritating to them as they would be to an irrelevant person, right? Which channels are they seeing you on? So a user who might be a user of both LinkedIn and Instagram would have very different attitudes when they're on either channel, right? Even though they may just, as users, they may move seamlessly between the channels, they expect very different messaging in each channel, right? So that's something that as marketers, we can now, curate our messaging in a manner that is relevant to the users, right? What's our messaging to the user when they see our ad for the first time, when we are introducing the brand to them? What about subsequent interactions? What about after they've used a product, right? And depending on these interactions, what do they see on your product? What do they see on the app? I would say that personalization today is ubiquitous. It is necessary for any and every business, right? It's not really a question of if anymore. It's only about what can we do, how much can we do, and how much better can we do it versus our competition to retain this personalization as a competitive advantage. That's what I would say. Why this topic is really pertinent in today's day and age.
Very important point.
Yeah.
So personalization is no more, an option. It's actually the option now. So we have to have personalization in communication. Akshay, with that, your views on the topic.
Okay, Santosh. Thank you for having me on the event. So basically, I would like to start with a statement. Personalization is not a trend anymore. It was there 5 years ago. It's not a trend. Now every new age shopper needs personalization. Hence, every marketer needs to adapt to the strategy of personalization. So I would like to throw some lights on the point that Sanjay made. So I was reading this article. This was this research held by Harvard University, wherein the best business, which is like doing the 100% personalization or close to 100% personalization, is a local panwala shop. So no brand does no brand is it is nowhere near to what a personalization experience a panwala shop is presenting to its customer. So yeah, personalization is the need of the hour.
Hey, thanks, Sanjay. And since you mentioned research, so this entire research is available now. The link is posted on the chat. So to all audiences, please go through our research. We'll of course be sharing it over email as well. And please do post in your questions. I'm going to start with my questions for the speakers. Plus, I will take up your questions. So please post in using the question side or the chat box on AirMeet. So Shweta, I'll start with my question to you. You were mentioning about video, and one of our research earlier was about last year when we published a report. We were talking about video taking the center stage, and now there is no doubt it's the competitive advantage most of the brands have, and you're the one who is dominating the space with personalized content. I wanted to understand also from our discussion how ZEE5 allows avenues for advertisers leveraging the platform for precise targeting and segmentation. So if you could share some more info on that.
Like I said earlier, and I'll pick up from where I left off from my introduction, what we have is very, very focused ad suites that goes out to all our advertisers. So we have segments. We have, of course, the premium ZEE5 Premium. We have ZEE5 AWard. We have Kids. We have Play on ZEE5. We have UGC that's just come up. So we have specific ad suites for each of these segments. Where we allow for a different kind of personalization, a different kind of targeting to our advertisers. So for kids, then it's very clear that you target mothers. Again, like I said, it's not just about creating, formats or creating packages, but it's more about seamlessly reaching your user in a way that there is a balance between the advertiser and the consumers of that particular ad, because every advertiser needs to see a certain kind of ROI on the investments that they make on the platform. They have a charter to deliver certain KPIs. That comes from specific targeting. That comes from that actually gets delivered if the user interacts with the ads, and therefore user experience comes first. Where we focus on is where the markers are placed, how the ads are served, where they are served, at what timing is the ad served, what is the duration of the ad, how does it seamlessly kind of flow in. Of course, ads are as intrusive as they get. You can't wish that away. Especially for free users, they've also on some level kind of signed up to see those ads, but even so, how do you create a sort of a seamless experience, viewing experience, to what you deliver to the advertisers in terms of targeting, in terms of KPIs, in terms of ROI, and personalization for both, right? In terms of the user, it goes to him or her in terms of the kind of content they're viewing, in terms of the relevant ads that go to them. And to the advertiser, you deliver personalization through accurate targeting, lookalike modeling, attribute mapping, and newer and personal ways of reaching your audiences, in terms of creating custom experiences through the games that we build, custom experiences through the elements that we create on the platform. Like Hippie, we have effects and filters that people can add to a particular video while uploading. So then those effects and filters get sponsored by a brand, and the user has no problem using those filters. Like if I'm a makeup influencer and Maybelline has a filter to be used, I'll very happily go and use it, right? That's the kind of seamless integration you weave into that experience, where the user feels happy about using something by a brand, and the brand feels good about reaching the audience. That's the balance that we are, that's the journey we are on in terms of personalization, for the users, for the advertisers.
Hey, that's great insight, and I know while it sounds so sounds so easy that you're not able to integrate with your personalization for advertisers. There's a lot of technology going at the back end. I think Shweta has a patchy connection. She's joining in back. I'll move to you, Akshay. In our earlier conversation, you had mentioned that your brand is someone who is taking up a traditional business online, and while you are replicating the business online, you also want to replicate how a family jeweler would take personalization to their customers. So, give us some understanding on that, because that was one of the points while I was talking to Ravi as well. He mentioned he would love to know, how Kalyan Jewellers is taking up the personalized experience that you get while you go to a shop while selling jewelry online.
Okay. To start, Santosh, the digitization in jewelry was very late adoption. I would say that this is like last category which came and adopted digitization. There are a number of reasons. I will try to cover that few. So what we have observed is a lot of consumers are using digital channel to do their research primarily. The entire purchase might happen on digital or online, but research is primarily shifted from offline to online. So the entire window shopping has been migrated to the online channel. So the personalization is a challenge for us. I would say challenge because our competition is with the local jewelers and not with our direct competition. Like for Kalyan Jewellers, our direct competitor is not a different jewelry brand. It is the local jeweler who are controlling the 90% of the entire business, and we, like the entire brands, have only 10% control over the entire business. So our competition is with the local jewelers, and they are masters of personalization. They are outperforming technology with the kind of experience and service they are providing. Because when you look at jewelry, it is a very age-old tradition. My grandmother had a family jeweler. My mom got introduced to the same jeweler, and probably I know that jeweler since and my family is attached. So shifting the users from a local jeweler to a online brand is a challenging process. And for personalization, it is not national. In jewelry, the taste is very regional. Kind of consumption that is happening in Bombay, which is very different from what kind of consumption which is happening in Chennai. So what we do is we use our platform to hyper personalize the entire merchandising. What product to showcase for which location. We collect a lot of data points. Basis the data points, we showcase this are our top picks. So there are a lot of there is a lot of machine learning which goes at the back end, which basically decides if Akshay is from Bombay and Santosh is from Pune, what products Akshay will like and what Santosh would like to purchase. So this is like that we are using machine learning, AI, everything all together just to personalize the content for the user. Also, talking about like challenges, what we face is basically if I tell you like what is your size of shirt, you will know, but you will have a direct answer. But if I ask you what is your size of your ring, you will never know. Like no one knows the entire specification of jewelry. So we are using AR, augmented reality, just to try and more like bridge the gap between what jewelry as a purchase a user has been doing since ages to adopting to a new age digitized experience. So that's the different behavior what we have observed, and we are trying to cater it by you like what we have done is like we have customer data platforms where we try to get all the information, put it all together, and do some modeling wherein we are able to find the patterns, uh, what content a consumer would react to. Personalization is not only about the content and communication; it is also about the channel. What Ayush mentioned and Sweta mentioned, like which channel Akshay is likely to react more. So it is a combination of content, medium, channels, the entire timing. Like whether Akshay will write the call, like would like to have a content early in the morning, or maybe Santosh would like to have like to receive the content late in the night. So I mean, understanding those. So basically, the entire CDP what we have created helps us understanding what to deliver.
Yeah, that's really great. So on the one hand, we are looking at a very simple business of uh, a local jeweler, or known as Ayush mentioned, the panwala, and on the other side, we're looking at technology heuristics to match what they are delivering at a personalized level. And I think with everyone transforming to digital, that's going to be the next big wave. Shweta, I'm sure jewelry would be a topic you would like to talk about. So your views on what Akshay mentioned. Do you really think brands have been able to bring in that personalized experience, and is that the competitive advantage now?
Definitely. I mean, aside from being a woman and not being interested in jewelry, I was a part of the team that launched the Tanishq e-commerce platform as a part of my stint at Densu Web Chutney. So I know all too well the experience in terms of a traditional line of business like jewelry coming online. But then it was difficult then. I'm talking about 2010 at that time, and 10 years hence we've made significant advances in terms of experiences. Like AR is a very very handy technology that helps you kind of cross that physical to digital barrier, right? So whatever is relevant, whatever technology is available, AI, AR, there are a whole bunch, a plethora of tech stack available for all marketers, for all businesses to be able to automate. AI, of course, comes in very, very handy, and various parts of AI, whether it's customer segmentation, whether it's programmatic advertising, that goes to the next level because of solutions that are borrowed from artificial intelligence, customer support, and all parts of customer support, like AR, which actually helps you, with the trials. I think a lot of businesses are doing that. OTT, of course, is doing that, but specifically, where it requires trying clothes, glass. So of course AR comes in very very handy. So I think our charter as business leaders, marketing leaders, is to make these right choices, keep the customer at the center of it all, and then pick wisely to deliver a certain kind of personalization experiences, not make it cumbersome for the user, just because we as businesses want to automate something, right? That is something that everybody kind of grapples with. To how much technology is too much technology? Am I going to overwhelm my user by collecting too much data or giving too many options, or just because I want to automate something, there are bots popping in to ask you questions while I'm browsing through something? All of that is like a complete experience killer. So how much personalization, what technology, how relevant is it, and how does it seamlessly sit into your entire stack? I think that's very important. Not overwhelm the user with technology and automation just because we as businesses and marketers want data, want better targeting, but lose sight of what the customer wants.
Hey, very well said. I'll move with my last question to Ayush, and I request the audiences to post in their question. We'll start with your questions with the panel after this. So Ayush, you've been targeting different segments at seniority. You're talking about targeting senior citizens with very specific products, and now at Code Foxy, you're working on teaching kids coding. And these are two different segments, and I'm sure you are utilizing personalization to the max to reach out to your target audiences and make these stories successful. Please share how you're doing that. What's the magic sauce?
At actually both places. So you're absolutely right about that. So at seniority, one of the things that we did really well was being able to use personalization in our advertising strategy from the very early days. And a platform like FB gives you a lot of tools to target various user groups pretty effectively, right? So there was certain abstraction that they keep with an advertiser, but we were still able to use it to our advantage quite a bit. So be it something as basic as different creatives across different age groups, because seniors buying products for themselves versus youngsters buying products for their parents or grandparents have a very different thought process, right? So therefore they would want to see different kind of messaging, and then being able to run multivariate testing within each segment to see which creative, which copy works the best, and then put the money behind the best performing creative, right? So much better usage of money, and as a startup being able to drag your rupees spent to the maximum extent possible is a major competitive advantage. Then after a few months, as people started using the product, as they started buying from us, then being able to create lookalike audiences of RFM 14, 15 customers. Just to clarify, RFM is recency, frequency, monetary value, a way to just judge on a scale of 1 to 5 how valuable a customer is. So if a customer is 5 in recency, 5 in frequency, 5 in monetary value, they're the most valuable customers that you have in all probability. So being able to create RFM lookalike audiences of these customers, and then that enabled us to acquire high LTV customers fairly cheaply, right? And then on the website itself, being able to use a lot of these AI ML tools like Unbox, which customize what products get shown to users, be it as search results or as related products to specific products, and they would use. So this would depend on the customer's search history, usage history, purchase history. Take all of that into account and show customers the relevant product at the relevant time, right? And this was able to drive a very high repeat rate for seniority, right? So we had like more than 40% of our revenues coming in from repeat users every month, and this was not just direct retention, right? So a direct retention would be, I bought a consumable, it got over, I bought it again, right? And first order retention is also fairly easy to understand. You bought a music player, for example, and then you bought some more music cards, right? Or for example, if you enjoy stitching, knitting as a hobby, you bought one stitch kit and then you bought more stitch kits in related designs, right? But using these tools, using AI and ML and the kind of data analytics that we were able to get into second order related product usage, right? So for example, if a person has brought one of our best sellers was an Ayurvedic concoction that was great for the heart, right? So if a person has bought that product, they were much more likely to buy exercise equipment, right? Because if you sort of, and now in hindsight it seems obvious, right? That it seems so clear, but being able to use the right kind of tools, the tools would bring out this kind of insights for us, right? With Code Foxy, the aim is to teach children computational thinking, algorithmic problem solving through coding as one of the ways. So what we plan to do with Code Foxy is we plan on using AI to drive the kids' learning journey to be optimized to their specific needs, right? To very specific knowledge points. So basically, spend more time on a topic that they've struggled with, and speed through topics that they're comfortable with, right? What this allows, so unlike a classroom, wherein after a topic is gone, it's gone, right? And if 3 months later you're not able to understand a specific topic because you couldn't understand something that was taught 3 months ago, the teacher doesn't really sort of care because they have like 30 other students to take care of. So even in an offline world, unfortunately, while we've talked a lot about how the offline world is so much more personalized, in education specifically, the offline world unfortunately isn't personalized, right? So can we use technology to make it personal for each individual student, for each individual student's needs? And what that will ensure automatically, once if you are able to spend time on a topic till the student understands it and not waste time on a topic that they've already understood, it will lead to higher engagement, more confidence in their own abilities, better quality of learning, and a much better use of their time and energy, right? And seeing as seniority was e-commerce, where we had to convince users to buy a product every time, Code Foxy is going to be a subscription-based platform, right? And so therefore, much more than seniority, wherein a customer was sort of they purchased a product and we have gross margins, etc., to take care of the costs. With Code Foxy being a subscription-based platform, retention is at the core of building a successful business, right? You can't afford to have students come in on day 1 and leave on day 60, and then sort of you're always struggling to acquire new and new students and bring them onto the platform. So therefore, being able to use technology and personalization to deliver a superior experience will not even be an add-on to the core business. It will be the core business itself with Code Foxy.
Yeah, that's great, Ayush, and a follow-up to you, Akshay. One of the questions from the audience, Kalyan Jewellers has maybe one of the strongest brand offline and online to perform at the level of experience as well. How do you ensure coherent omni-channel experience?
So we have been able to crack it for offline to online. So basically, we have an entire chunk of data, and we have managed to create a CDP. So what we do is, like, whenever a user, a known user, a customer visits the website, so we know we process the data points. Like, suppose if Santosh is an offline buyer, maybe he's with Kalyan Jewellers since last 10 years. And we know that Santosh has a specific taste, like which categories Santosh is more inclined towards. We know what's his LTV. We know his like we have his entire RFM model. What's his recency? What's his frequency? What was his last previous purchase, and what Santosh is likely to buy next. So basis that we process all the data, and the entire merchandising is it's personalized to what Santosh has been doing historically with his buying pattern. So we have been able to do for offline to online, but we are still working. How do we do it other way from online? A customer who has interacted for first on online platform, if he visits offline store, how do we personalize? It's still on the journey we are working on. But yes, we have been able to crack it for offline to online on the personalization. Was I audible? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I think there was a network glitch. But yeah, thanks, Akshay.
Santosh has some network issue.
Yeah, I think Santosh. Yeah, Santosh, you're back.
Hey, sorry. I have a very personalized rain over here taking away my network. So, Shweta, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question from the audience is, ZEE5, unlike other OTT platforms, isn't stuck to a genre, and so the offerings don't show particular theme. Prima facie, in such a condition, how does recommendations work?
Very good question. So we have a very strong recommendation engine, and it's a conscious decision not to stick to a particular genre. We aspire to become the super app within the entertainment category, and super apps have something for everybody. We have something for sports lovers, adventure, crime, romance, thriller, kids, games. It is a part of the organization's vision to have something for everybody. So in a situation like that, obviously recommendation has to be spot on, targeting has to be spot on, our curations, everything has to be spot on. So what we do is we do a lot of attribute mapping. Like Akshay mentioned, we have a CDP as well. We take into account their first touch point on the platform and what they do subsequently. We gather some initial insights at the cold start. So cold start is when the user comes on the platform for the first time. At that time, we do a lot of attribute gathering. Some are explicit, some are done implicitly, of course, like language, location, all of that happens automatically. We specifically ask for preferred genres. Like any other entertainment platform, you go to a music streaming app, you go to any other OTT platform which has a bouquet of offerings. There's always an initial genre gathering. We do that as well, and then we continue to build our personalization journey, and that's when our recommendation engine becomes sharper. Every subsequent visit by the user, be it a premium user or a free user, every subsequent visit, the recommendation gets sharper and sharper, basis what the user watches. Of course, there is also our recommendation engine that does attribute mapping. So we do a lot of work in the area where we do ancillary recommendations, right? If a user has watched a particular show, then there is also an ancillary recommendation that kicks in, like all top OTT platforms in terms of you may also like, or why don't you try this, right? So we have various journeys where we try and serve something completely off to see if the user kind of engages with the platform, or then there is predictable, right? Because in terms of entertainment, the walls have completely opened up, right? There is no saying that a Tamilian will not watch a Bengali movie. I know so many North Indians who watch more Tamil movies than I do, and that's across. And even in terms of consumption, Indians are watching Spanish movies, French movies within India, winning in many India. South Indians watch Bengali movies, North Indians watch Malayalam movies. It's all kind of cross pollinating now. That it's a surprise that our recommendation engine or any recommendation engine hasn't broken, but that can be kind of addressed if you are doing a user level targeting rather than just classifying them as a cohort. As a Tamilian based in Chennai, if I choose to watch a Bengali movie, then so be it, right? My recommendation will flow accordingly. So it's about micro segmenting to a very, very granular extent, and then serving a particular kind of recommendation rather than saying it's a South Indian who watches, most likely to watch a Tamil movie. That doesn't work anymore. That kind of recommendation, that kind of targeting no longer holds good for any of us.
Hey, that's a great point, and yeah, India being diverse as it is, I think it's more valid in our context. Considering that we started a little bit late, I'll try to wrap up with the last question for this panel. Just let me pick that up. Yeah, so that one is for you, Ayush, and I'm clubbing two questions actually, which are almost similar. So Now the question is, both the senior citizen segment and the kids segment have an angle of personalization that has gone creepy. That's interesting. And a lot, how to navigate that and where do you draw the line?
That have gone, I'm sorry, could you repeat? I missed a part of that. Have a level of personalization that have gone?
Level of personalization that has gone creepy in terms of, where things have gone wrong, and how do you navigate that? Where do you draw the line?
No, I mean, I would say that even outside of these two target audiences, I would say there is always a fine line that as advertisers we have to keep in mind, that you don't go overboard with that, with your advertising. In terms of creepy, I would say it's always going to be a concern in terms of how much data that you collect. I mean, and this is not even a new phenomenon. We've heard of this right from when I was in B school about that, about Target, the retailer in the US, sending across basis the user's purchase behavior. They sent across a congrats on your pregnancy kit to a user's house, and she hadn't even announced it to the rest of her household. Right? So personalized. So companies have to know that yes, you have the data, but you also have to understand your user. So the data can't be used so mechanically. It has to come from a place of empathy. You have to really understand your user and then use that data to the advantage of the user. Like Shweta said, you can't use it just as an advertiser just because you have the data and you use it to your own advantage. You have to think of it from the user's perspective and ensure that you don't cross a line. That can only come from a place of empathy.
That's very well put. Yeah. So with that, I would love to pose more questions. There are actually some questions coming in, but we would have to end it here as our session was originally planned to end at 5:40, but since we had like a late start, so I would end the session here. There would be a vote of thanks after this by Rohit from Netcore, and thanks a lot to you, Akshay, Ayush, and Shweta for joining us and dedicating your time, also giving your interview for this particular initiative. Again, to the audience, all these interviews are available in the report, and it's an interactive report, so please go ahead and read it. The link is already shared with you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Santosh, Akshay, Ayush.
Thank you. Nice meeting. Thank you.
So once again, thank you, everybody. And I have written a formal thing, but I think informally as well, from the very bottom of my heart and from the entire team, thank you. With that, we proceed into the formal vote of thanks. So after 3 highly enriching sessions, a timeless book full of insights, and such an engaging afternoon, we stand in gratitude. Gratitude towards the panelists, Meera, Rahul, Ritesh, Avnish, Sanjay, Akshay, Ayush, and Shweta, sorry. Our esteemed fireside guests, Lloyd and Ravi, the team at Airmeet, Research Next, and Netcore. Thank you for being helpful, insightful, and just overall amazing throughout. I mean, 2020 has been a stinker of a year. And in between all of this, you guys were kind enough to take the time out and involve yourself in such a ambitious project of ours. Thank you for doing that. We also extend our gratitude towards each member of the audience for being wonderful one at that. Thank you for the time and intriguing and thought-provoking questions. Lastly, nothing today would have been meaningful without the book and the incredible contributions from all the marketing leaders who were kind enough to take the time out to share their knowledge with us. Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. Stay safe, happy, and keep learning. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks everyone from Team Research NXT. Special thanks to all the speakers who joined in and the ones who couldn't join us. Without their contribution, we couldn't have made this report. And thanks a lot, Rohit, for all the support that was extended for this particular journey. So with that, we are ending the event. Thanks everyone for joining us.